Talk to me, Cleveland. We haven't officially started the show yet, but if you are watching, um, one, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell, as well as share the show. Let the people know this is a very, hold on just a second. This is a very special event. Information that we need to know. Matter of fact, I'm going to let my BFF in the building while we wait for the people to get in and for the 7 o'clock hour to arrive. Again, this is I haven't started record yet, but this is a very special program. We're in a worldwide pandemic, and this is information that can save lives. Information that we need to share. There's my BFF. LaDosha is in the shop. She's getting hydrated. Okay, let me get hydrated too. We already have people joining us. We haven't officially started, but I just want people to know, please share the show. Please let people know the importance of this program. Our special guest is tireless in his research and his study, proper in his methodology, and we appreciate the time spent to compile the book that we're going to be talking about today. As everybody knows, I work hard at getting this information out, trying to spread the word and let people understand the urgency of the unprecedented times that we're in. I see my BFF over in the shop getting it together. I see her getting it together. And it's still not 7 o'clock yet, so we have some time. Tamika, what's going on? Teti, Usa, Ma'at Ra, Senefru, what's going on? Peace, peace, peace. The guest of honor I see is in the chat. Man, Shawn is funny. Shawn can work the chat, the actual program. He's all over the place. As we see my BFF LaDosha and co-sponsor of this event is getting together at the world famous Reverence Design team. Again, and we have Dr. Bonita Cole. She's in the waiting area right now, but we will let her in pretty soon as we get ready to begin before I hit record. My man Chavez, what's going? See, it wasn't going to be official unless my man was in the building. What's going on, King? All right, people are starting to. Already, we have 10,000 people in the building. No, and make sure we let the people know. I ran over to Facebook real quick. A lot of people thought it was going to be on the Chill Talk radio page, but it is not. Maybe they will see this after it runs again, or if they go to my personal page, they'll see that I told everybody to come over here. And as it approaches, okay, Shawn is in the waiting area. We're still, hopefully LaDosha is getting it together. Please let people know about the show. It's going down today. This is something that's near and dear to me, and we've all been touched by this in some form of fashion. LaDosha's almost ready. We've all been touched by this in some form of fashion. People that we know, people that we love, people have been infected, people have had the disease. We've lost some people. We like Brother Ankh says, this is a a battle over the hearts and minds of our people. Literally. People are still confused about what this is, and no one better to unconfuse them than our special guest that we will be bringing on. LaDosha, are you ready? My co-sponsor. You still on mute.
Okay.
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear
All
me
right.
now?
We can officially, I'm going to officially, well, before I officially start, say hi, LaDosha, our co-sponsor. We'll get an official introduction from her, but.
Hello, Bonita.
Are you ready for this, LaDosha?
I'm ready for this. Yeah.
Okay, let me go ahead and let the people in. We'll let in Dr. Cole. Dr. Cole on the way. We'll let in Shawn. All right, we have Shawn there. And we have Dr. Cole getting it together. Dr. Cole is up and running. Shawn is up and running. Let me go ahead and hit record.
Ooh, look crazy.
Okay. Dr. Cole, you good?
Yep.
All right.
Hold on, wait a minute.
Man, Shawn is just gonna be like floating in between his book like he's the Wizard of Oz. He's floating in his book. Shawn, you look you looking magical. You pseudo Shawn. No, I'm just playing.
This is the first time
I
I'm
don't see
using my.
Shawn.
This is the
You don't
first
see
time
Shawn?
I'm using my
No.
screen.
I see everybody. Maybe you won't see him until he actually says something, and then
Okay.
and then he gets on. So we are going to press record, and I will officially start the program. Again, for the people who are watching, feel free to share, let people know to tune in. Just a second. Let me record. All right, talk to me, Cleveland, and everywhere else that you are in the world. You may or may not know me. I am Kevin Chill Hurd, longtime journalist, old school MC. But for today, I am the executive director of the nonprofit My Cool Solutions. Our vision statement is to implement sustainable programs globally that provide and improve self-awareness, self-confidence, and self-expression. Our mission at My Cool Solutions is to provide effective, nurturing, and accessible services that educate, informs, and inspires creativity for the members of the greater Cleveland community, as well as our global community. I share duties in sponsoring this event with my BFF. No better person when I said it. Is anybody else out there willing to be a co-sponsor for this event? She was ready, as she always is. My BFF. She wears so many hats. She does so many things. She brings forth Reverence Design Team, but she's so much more, and she's actually in the building right now. So much more. Entrepreneur, author, global traveler. She has her books. She has several books out. Hair care products. Fingernail polish, nail polish, everything. And most impressive to me, she has a library in the Gambia, not a library down the street, across the ocean, in the motherland. She has a library. Maybe she can give us some more of that. But I'd like to introduce the co-sponsor of this event, LaDosha Wright. What's going on, LaDosha?
What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening?
LaDosha, tell us, I mean, I know I'm your BFF, but tell us a little bit about why you chose to co-sponsor this event.
Well, first of all, I'm so glad to see Dr. Cole in the building. I can't wait to listen to hear what she and Shawn is going to be sharing with us. So that right there, that's number one reason right there, because I trust those two and I love the way that they take this very concerning. This is a topic that really concerns a lot of people, and they make it user friendly. So as a cosmetologist, I feel like that's my job to be like a bootleg doctor, to make this industry very user friendly. So I take my cue on how to talk to people and treat people from those two wonderful people. So that's number one. But number two, and I shared this on my post yesterday, and I'm not going to be long because we got to get to the show. But a lot of people do not know that the beauty and barber industry is regulated under public safety and sanitation. People really think our license is about making you look good, using flat irons and hairsprays and all this kind of stuff. But in all actuality, it would be at the much vested interest of Madam C.J. Walker as to why the beauty and barber industry actually has license in the first place. Because what people don't know is that she and Annie Turbo Malone, this was their passion, to get people to clean. And so the beauty and barber industry, the foundation of public safety and sanitation, they kind of borrowed a lot of that from her. So the COVID-19, pandemic is it's very, very dear to my heart, because in our industry, that is our job, is to protect the public from communicable diseases. And COVID-19 is considered, highly contagious. And so I'm always concerned when I hear people in our industry who do not want to be vaccinated, or who are vaccine hesitant, or who don't understand why beauty and barber salons are very involved in helping to spread the word. And that's because we can't spread the cooties, you know what I'm saying? So that's the number two reason. And so anytime I get the opportunity to support and let the public see that this really is our job, hairstyling and making you look good and coloring it, that's just the foo-foo-frilly part. But if we were not able to be clean, disinfect, sanitize, and know when to push away, and of course, follow all the guidelines as outlined to us by the state and the federal government, we could not operate. So when we had to take the back seat as non-essential workers, people were like, we are essential. And it's like, no, I have forked over a lot of gloves to help out, because we're not essential in that sense, but we are important. But what we can do right now is support people like you, Dr. Cole, and of course, Shawn P, because you guys help make my job a lot easier. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
All right, thank you, LaDosha, and I appreciate very much you jumping in there and offering to also serve as a sponsor for this event under the my 501c3. We're gonna, as some of the people who taught me, when you give official events, you gotta at least cut somebody a check. So I told Shawn that he could expect to get he won't be able to go out and get a pair of those Jordans that he collects, but we do appreciate him being a part of our, and I'll introduce Shawn later. He's no stranger to the whole chillosphere, to the chill universe. People see him on Chill Talk. They've seen him on a lot of the programs that we've done, even prior to the pandemic, where we were talking about vaccines, where we were with Dr. Cole. But no, LaDosha, I appreciate you. I love you. There's so much more that we can talk about of the things that you do.
Yes, but
we don't have enough time to go through all of that.
No, that's good. I just want to say, just thank you so much. And that this is, back in the day, believe it or not, we had to actually prove to the government that we were what? vaccinated. So thank you so much. I appreciate this very much.
I appreciate you, LaDosha, and I want to bring on Dr. Bonita Ko. I try very much not to ever do any type of program or interview that concerns medical, the medical establishment, medical literacy, the whole medical foundation, without having Dr. Bonita Ko. Dr. Ko has been on obviously she's been on Chill Talk several times. She's been on programs with me several times. She's when we were at the radio station before the pandemic, when we were up at Radio 1 doing Chill Talk, she was always there whenever we need her. Even we were talking about other disease. We were talking sickle cell, and she jumped in. But Dr. Ko, I don't know if you remember, you sat on an interview with me when I was interviewing a doctor. He was calling himself the hip hop doctor. I mean, he was a legitimate doctor.
Yeah.
And we were at the Call and Post. And I started asking him questions, and you started doubling down on some questions. And he was like, I guess he thought you were just a journalist hanging out with me at the paper. And he was like, wait a minute, that's a very technical question there. Like what? And then you broke it down, and he was like, oh, y'all doing it like this. So yeah, Dr. Ko and everybody, I think I've said it before, you know, when she was in Cleveland before she went big time and left us for Maryland, Dr. Ko was my actual primary care doctor, my primary care physician. I'm sure I was the best patient she ever had. She can't deny or confirm because of HIPAA laws, but I'm saying I was the best patient she ever had. Maybe I was not the best patient, but she was my primary care doctor. And shout out to my current doctor, Gregory Hall. A lot of the things that I've been doing concerning the COVID campaign, trying to get people aware, I would not have been doing it without my current physician, Dr. Gregory Hall, who runs and operates his own African American medical association here in Cleveland. But my first adult doctor, Dr. Bonita Ko, the Chill Talk doctor, has her medical degree from Howard University and a biology degree from Stanford. Excuse me, as she corrected me before, human biology. Let's get that straight. At Stanford, Dr. Bonita Ko. How's it going, Doc?
It's going good. A little tired. I'm getting tired of this.
I can only imagine, because we know that you are hard at work doing your thing. And I mean, just real quick before we introduce our very special guest, the main event, the straw that stirs the drink, just really quick, how is it actually in the field, on the ground, in the medical community in these days and times? I know you said you're tired. Just really quick, just let us know how this is in the field.
We're tired, we're frustrated, and quite honestly, I'm quite disappointed in people, because I never would have imagined that people would have politicized a viral infection, been selfish about not wanting to protect themselves, and if not protect yourself, protect others. So honestly, that's how I feel about it right now.
And you and other doctors as well probably feel the same way, but hey, we appreciate you guys out there, boots on the ground, in the field, actually doing this work. And we're gonna come back to Dr. Ko. She's gonna do a breakdown and kind of catch us up on some information. Some we may know, some information we don't know, but certainly it's gonna be some information that we need to know. Of course, everybody's seen me promoting this, and we will continue to promote this even after we finish the program. This will be linked out to various communities, various organizations, civic, social, medical, brothers in the hood. Everybody needs to know about this. But yeah, and I'm introducing our brother, Shawn Calfani. Everybody knows him as Shawn P. We know him from the critical show Science with Shawn. If you guys have not seen Science with Shawn, I know Shawn rolls with his own camp, so he has some people in here that already rock with him. But for the people who are watching this right now who don't know, and for the people who will be seeing this later on, if you have not seen Science with Shawn on his YouTube channel, do yourself a favor, go back and watch the episodes. Shawn is he's tireless on fighting this fight of getting that information out. See, Dr. Cole, she's out here treating patients. She don't have time to be chasing down people talking about they got magnets stuck on their neck and it's chips in them, yeah, Dr. Cole out here treating patients. But Shawn wants that smoke. So, you know, he's out there in that field, on that wall. We appreciate him. Shawn P, welcome, my brother.
What's going on, man? Appreciate you having me, Dr. Cole. It's always a pleasure. And Sister LaDosha, I know you dipped out with PCU as well. I'm just glad to be here, ready to get it going.
All right. And Shawn, I called Shawn when I talked to Dr. Cole after she received Shawn's book. And she gave him some good accolades on how he broke the book down, what SARS-CoV-2 taught me. And matter of fact, I think we might have some information coming soon. Dr. Cole might be having something else. She already said she might steal something from Shawn's technique about how he put some stuff together. But what'd you say, Shawn?
Can't wait to read it.
And we're gonna come back, but I do want to welcome Shawn. Like I said, Shawn, we go back, and even Dr. Cole, even before the pandemic, we were out here fighting this fight about vaccines in general and misinformation about autism and various things that they were associating with other vaccines prior to this pandemic. So this crew is no stranger to that. And I appreciate you guys out here doing what you do. Dr. Cole, if you please, I believe you, and matter of fact, do you need me to share my screen?
I have you ready for the slides?
Yes, and I'm gonna be ready in a second.
So I have the slides already queued up. I can share my screen.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to disable the share.
I'm screen sharing. Okay, Shawn, I know you do this all the time. Is there something else I need to do?
Well, in Zoom, because she could share her screen. So
yeah, you gotta allow me to share.
Yeah, go back in Zoom, and under the share, where the share button is in Zoom, there's an arrow, that little arrow V looking thing. If you click that, it'll allow you to
All right, here we go. Multiple participants can share simultaneously. All right, that should be it. All right, Shawn, I believe I hit that part. Yeah, it says multiple participants can share screen. So we good. So it's on you, Dr. Cole.
All right. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
So basically, I'm gonna quickly go through just basic information for people who have been under a rock for the last almost 2 years about the coronavirus and information about what the virus is and what vaccines are. And of course, always consult your own medical professional before making any decisions about your own health care. So quickly, the COVID-19 vaccine came out, almost a year ago now. And basically, the COVID-19 vaccine, just like other vaccines, allows the body to develop antibodies, which can help you fight off illnesses and make you immune to, or help you fight off diseases so you can build up immunity to diseases. It doesn't mean that you can't get the disease, but the point of getting a vaccine is to lessen the severity of disease and prevent you from being very sick, hospitalized, or dying from the disease. And so by taking a vaccine, you allow your body's own immune system to fight off the infection. So you may have heard about messenger RNA vaccines. That's the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines that we first started using last year. One thing that people don't know is the technology and the science about using messenger RNA vaccines has been around for at least 10 or 15 years. So it's not like this is really new technology, but our scientists and virologists around the world are finally using this type of technology to fight off serious illnesses. So here we go. So how the COVID-19 vaccine works specifically, it teaches the body about how to recognize the virus by using a harmless piece of the virus called mRNA. It's the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines use the mRNA from the spike protein, which is a protein on the surface of the coronavirus. And by having that mRNA in your cells, it does not change your DNA, but allows your body to make antibodies to the spike protein. And that is what the immune response is. So this is just a schematic of a cell. And basically the mRNA vaccines, it's not a whole lot to it. It has a lipid covering, that's the red around this schematic of a vaccine particle, and lipids is just fats, and inside is like sugar, and then the mRNA piece from a coronavirus that can make the spiked protein. And so what that mRNA does is go into your cell, and your cell makes more of this and puts the spike protein pieces on the cell. So then your body can make antibodies to this. And those antibodies can be ready when it sees the real virus. So the mRNA does not go into the nucleus. So it does not change your body's DNA. So in addition, the mRNA vaccines cannot cause COVID-19 because the piece that is given to you in the vaccine cannot cause disease. And like I said, the vaccine does not interact with your own DNA. And so this schematic is a quick way to see how the currently available COVID-19 vaccine viruses work that are in this country. Now, worldwide, there are lots of different vaccines that are being made by COVID-19, being made for COVID-19, but I want to focus on the schematic number 2 and number 3. So number 2 is a viral vector vaccine, which is what the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is, and that's different from mRNA vaccine. And what it does, it takes a piece of adenovirus, which is a virus that causes the common cold. And then from there, the body makes the spike protein using that piece of viral material, and then your body can make antibodies to the coronavirus vaccine. Now, the reason why I like the mRNA vaccines, because it actually takes out a step. It actually gives you the mRNA already. And so all your body does need to do is use the mRNA and multiply it and make the spike protein from the virus. So it actually takes out a step, and it's actually a more efficient way to make a vaccine. I like this slide because early in the pandemic, a lot of people were concerned about how fast the vaccine was developed, but there was actually no shortcuts in how the vaccine was developed as far as making sure that it's safe. As I said, the technology has been around for 10 or 15 years, maybe more, but what they did is just kind of compress the timeline of how vaccines are typically made. On the top, you can see that you have preclinical trials and different phases of vaccine development, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. But on the bottom, what we did is compress this timeline. So at the same time you're doing clinical trials, the pharmaceutical companies were actually manufacturing the vaccine at the same time. So, which is a big risk to take, because what if you go through the clinical trials and then the vaccine doesn't work? But fortunately, that did not happen. And so by the time you get to safety, evaluations and getting ready to make the vaccine accessible to the public, you have a lot of vaccine that's ready to go. And so that is how we were able to speed up having these vaccines be ready to go into people's arms. The main caveat of what I need to say is that, and this is what I say to my patients all the time, you cannot hide from this coronavirus. A lot of people are still unvaccinated or are still trying to make it through this society and hide from coronavirus. But unfortunately, viruses are very sneaky, and all they need is a little window into your body to evade your immune system and cause disease. And so that's why it's very important to get vaccinated. So when that little sneaky burglar comes in, you have some antibodies and some protection. So I also encourage my patients to consider getting the vaccine, because I have so many patients who coronavirus is wiping out multiple members and families. And still, just like other respiratory viruses, it's very easy to spread these viruses, and you're more easily going to spread them to people who you live with. So I encourage people to get vaccinated, not based on emotion, but follow the science of how all this works. So that I'll stop sharing my screen, but I do have a couple other things to say, because I was just on the Maryland Department of Health webinar last night with some updated information about our current variant, which is now Omicron. And as of January 1st, now the CDC estimates that Omicron actually is now making up 95.4% of COVID-19 cases now. So most people who are getting infected with the virus is the Omicron type. Now, you've probably been hearing that Omicron is causing less severe illness, and we hope that's going to continue to be true. But the main people are still getting sick, being hospitalized in the ICU and dying from COVID-19 are people who are unvaccinated, and behind them are people who haven't had their booster. So it's very important to get that booster vaccination to help boost your immunity to the Omicron virus. The other thing I will add to that is that for people who are had more chronic illnesses, immunosuppressed, cancer, we were giving people monoclonal antibody treatments if they got COVID-19. The monoclonal antibody treatments that we were using as of 2 weeks ago, we really stopped using them because we have found that they're not effective against the Omicron variant. So there is one monoclonal antibody that we still have, but that's in short supply. And we're really only trying to reserve that for the sickest patients. The other two updates that you may not have heard of, as of last week, the FDA has approved for under emergency use evaluation 2 pills to treat COVID-19. And so this is for people with mild to moderate symptoms who don't need to be in the hospital, but still may be at higher risk for suffering from complications or hospitalizations or death from COVID-19. There are some what we call drug-drug interactions. So there's certain medications if you're on, you will have to stop taking while you're on this drug. And they have to be given within 5 days of the onset of symptoms to work best once you've been diagnosed with COVID-19 and you have symptoms. So I actually prescribed this medication today for the first time for a patient who's in her 70s. This is actually her second time having COVID-19. Oh, by the way, you can get COVID-19 more than once, especially because the virus is mutating. She had it a year ago, but she has rheumatoid arthritis. She's on prednisone. She's on an immunosuppressant drug. And although she's doing better, I prescribed the medicine for her today. And today was day number 5 of her symptoms. So I talked to her about it. And I did not want to not tell her about it and let her know what's available, because today she was feeling fine, but that doesn't mean tomorrow she's feeling fine. And then by tomorrow, we would have missed the window for her to take this drug. There is also, starting December 8th, another drug that the FDA has approved under emergency use authorization. It's called Evusheld. And what that is called pre-exposure prophylaxis, which means giving somebody a drug before they are come in contact with a pathogen like a virus or a bacteria. And this medication has come out for people who have moderate to severe immune compromise, and people who and also for people who, for whatever reason, cannot be vaccinated. Maybe they have a severe allergy to one of the components of the vaccine, or because of their disease or medications they're on, they can't take the vaccine. And this medicine is for them to take on a regular basis to prevent them from getting COVID-19 because they cannot be vaccinated. This is another drug that's still in very limited supply. And in the state of Maryland, we were told in order to get this, we would collaborate with the hospitals, because right now this drug is only being distributed to the hospitals. So fortunately, I haven't had anybody who will need this one, but it is also available. So basically, in addition to the vaccines, we have some new treatments that are pills. So the monoclonal antibodies were more challenging to give because it was an infusion, and you had to be in a hospital or go to an infusion center. Now, just like today, I can actually prescribe the drug and you can go get it from your pharmacy. So things are looking better, but the bottom line still is we have to have more people who need to be vaccinated, because we're tired, people are quitting, healthcare professionals are getting sick. The ICUs are full of COVID patients, and we still are not above this pandemic curve. And the best thing we have is for more people to get vaccinated. And the last thing I'll say is my prediction that we're probably going to get to the point where we're going to be getting vaccines for the COVID-19 virus probably once a year. And it's probably, I predict it's probably going to be something like the flu vaccine and the COVID-19 vaccine is going to be in the same vaccine, and we're going to be getting it once a year, like other vaccines, like hepatitis A and hepatitis B has a combination vaccine. So there's lots of vaccines that we have, they're actually in combination. And I predict we're probably going to get to that point as well, because I don't see us getting to herd immunity. Now, I know, Chill, I told you 5 minutes, but I know that was longer than 5 minutes.
That's all right, Dr. Cole. No problem. And while I have, and Shawn concurs, and while I have you on here, well, first of all, when you were showing the nanolipid particles, I looked real hard. I did not see a computer chip, a microchip, a tracking chip in the lipid. I tried to blow it up. I didn't see it in there, but that's all right.
That's because it's not there.
We'll let Shawn deal with this. But really quick, Dr. Cole, while I have you on here, and I already know how this is going to go, but since we have a doctor here with us, one that we know, one that we trust, this is not going to take long. Can you create okay, Ankh, I see the God killer, brother Ankh is out there. Ankh been on he been on that front line with us a long time. You're gonna like this, Ankh. Can you create antibodies? Can you protect yourself from the COVID virus by taking black seed oil?
Why do you do this to me every time?
How about sea moss?
No, no, and no.
Vitamin D.
No.
Sunlight.
No.
Hot goat soup.
I don't even know what that is. I know what sunlight is, though. I do know that.
Okay. This is the last one, but this is serious. And I've heard you address this before, but I want you to address it again. Oh, wait a minute. Alkaline water. No. Okay. Anyway. All right. No. All right.
No.
Can you, in medical terms, boost your immune system?
So my first response to that is, because I have patients ask me that a lot. And so the issue is the way the human immune system works is it has to have seen an organism before in order to have antibodies to protect yourself from it. So you can't protect yourself from a virus that your body has never seen. Can you make your body have a heightened immune response? No. You can be healthy and eat your fruit and your vegetables and exercise and be healthy so you can have a healthy immune system, but you can't make your immune system be more than what it is.
All right. I just wanted to get that one out there, Shawn.
What if you fast? Can you fast and drink like herbal teas and that'll do something?
Nope.
Push-ups?
Oh, okay.
What'd you say? Push-ups?
Push-ups?
No.
You can't exercise the virus from getting you? Okay, anyway. Thank you, Dr. Cole.
Somebody asked in the chat, navy beans.
I saw the navy beans. I like that. I like navy beans.
Cut it out. Cut it out.
Navy beans doesn't help with the, okay. I think we get that. And Shawn's going to get into some of this as well, but I just wanted you to also hear from Dr. Cole. But I do want to, Doc, don't go anywhere. I do want to bring.
Oh, I forgot to say, hey, Cleveland.
We miss you here, Dr. Cole. You know, you got fans up in the land. And just let everybody know, I won that game the other day. I was on New Year's Eve. I played, what was the game I played with your crew? The Black Card Revolt.
Black Card Revolt.
She had a bunch of doctors and smarty people up in there. I beat them down.
It was no doctors.
Oh yeah, they thought they were smart, but I had to give them that work. But anyway, I want to bring Shawn, man. If people have heard me talking about this book, What SARS-CoV-2 Taught Me, and this is much more than what it taught me personally. And it's much more than what it taught Shawn. It's what it can teach a lot of us, especially the regular, everyday brothers, particularly the ones out here thinking they can avoid COVID-19 with some hot goat soup. But
is that a real thing?
yes, I heard it when I was on Unc and them's thing. It was the hot goat, the spicy goat soup was a thing. I think it's, you know, a Jamaican or West Indian get the hot
Gotta
goat.
go to a Jamaican restaurant to get and order the spicy hot goat soup, is what the brother said.
See, y'all thought, Dr. Cole, you thought I was making that up.
I
Shawn
thought you were
Hammer.
making that up.
No, that's real. But I want everybody, and again, I told everybody at the beginning, they need to, you know, to follow Shawn on his science with Shawn. An amazing book by a brother who probably didn't even know that much about viruses a couple of years back. He may have, but this brother caught up quick and is getting that information. Like I said, I appreciate anything, something new comes out, you hear something crazy, and it's not too many things that are too crazy for Shawn to go after. If he hears about it, if people talking about it, he's gonna go in on it. But Shawn, what's going on, brother? Talk to us real brief, and because I'm gonna have you break down the intro to the book, but just say hello to the people and why is it that you think it's important to be here talking about this?
Again, everybody, what's up, man? I'm glad to be here. As far as the second part of that, the book is important for one, because it's trying to bridge a gap, right? There's a fight that's being had on multiple fronts. You have Dr. Coach, she's on the front line. She's dealing with these patients every day. She didn't have the actual time to address certain things that's fallacious and misrepresented by a lot of misinformation and the pushback from people who lack the intelligence to comprehend what science is saying. So she kind of got drugged. Well, I can't say personally Dr. Cole got drugged into it, but I believe a lot of the doctors and scientists got drugged into it because of the immense amount of misinformation that followed the pandemic, and it grew very quickly. So as you said earlier, a few years ago, no. I knew a little bit about vaccines, but viruses and understanding how they're structured and things like that, like, no. That process occurred over time. But, you know, as far as the book is concerned, the book is to deal with some of those things that we were hearing a lot of, and then the things that I felt like we needed to know more. And it just pretty much guide people in the right direction. It's not an end all be all. It could always be updated or added to. And that's why it's written in the way that it's actually written. But I felt that it was necessary because people needed something that they could physically get their hands on and understand. And then potentially it could help you decide for you and your family and your community, whether, you know, if this vaccine is for you or not, but not based on misinformation, but based on an accurate way to approach that information and understanding these different levels of how this book is written.
And Shawn, I do want to tell you, as I shared what Dr. Cole told me when she read the book, one of the things that she appreciated about the book is how you provide your sources immediately in the book. You know, where you don't have to go figure out where you got that information from, or if it was TikTok information, or whether you got it from somebody's YouTube. Dr. Cole, real quick, if you want to kind of, you know, summarize what you were saying about the importance of giving those sources.
So what I liked was the references and your sources was right after each chapter versus having to go flip to the back of the book. And then it was kind of like a, you know, with the questions after each chapter, review after each chapter. I like that format that you had. It was kind of like a little workbook, a little study book, kind of gave it that kind of flair to it. Although, I mean, it's a real book. A lot of good information, and I could see how much time you put into it to get all those sources and coalesce all that information in one source.
All right. How about
Yes,
that,
ma'am,
Shawn?
man, I appreciated that. I felt like, yeah, I really appreciate it. It's humbling. But I felt like if I did the review at the end of each chapter, that it would basically do two things. It would test the comprehension of people. And if they remembered it, then they knew that they could immediately answer it. But if they didn't, they had to go back. Hopefully they would go back and just review something to make sure that they actually properly understood it, because all of this is based, it's the intent is to have people make an honest decision at the end of the day about this pandemic, the climate that we're in, and the reason why you should get vaccinated versus your hesitancy. And because in that hesitancy, there's a lot of ignorance, and not in a negative way, but ignorance as in you just simply, there's things you don't know. So if you understood them and you could be able to walk, okay, now I understand what's going on. Okay, now I can keep up with this particular article, like all of those things, those steps, then we could get somewhere. We can progress as an actual people, because now we don't have to too much depend on what the media is saying in particular. We can draw upon what we've learned in steps, and then we could look at the science differently, because one thing that's hard for us to read are scientific journals and articles and things of that nature, because we don't know what we're looking at. The jargon is so widespread and there's so much of it, and there's a bunch of numbers. We graduated years ago. None of that is fresh on our minds. So I just tried to hammer that point away, especially with those reviews, to just make people get the simple things like, yeah, this was a bunch of information, but these are the core things that you need to know.
All right, my man. I was trying to block the Russian bot. And I think I blocked one of my people instead.
Mongo, yeah.
See, man, I can't do it like you, Shawn. I can't.
The Russian bot.
Shawn, I can't do it like you. Shawn can deal with the chat. He's on the actual the Zoom. Man, he does it all. But what I'm going to ask Shawn to do right now, while I try to deal with the Russian bot, man, Mongo, sorry, I deleted your comment instead of the bot. Trying to do too much. Shawn, if we can get you to read the introduction, because that delves a lot into how this came to be. You know, what was the purpose? What were you going through as you were putting this information together? Could you share with us that information?
Yeah, so I'll be glad to do that. So in the introduction, I just wanted to be honest and tell my story based on the journey leading up to this particular moment. And so it goes, my journey started before December 2019. It actually began when I became a science enthusiast with aspirations of becoming an avid researcher years prior. But it was not until I listened to a YouTube live stream, I heard people promoting alternative methods for treating illnesses and potential diseases, that I started applying proper research methodology to answer a series of questions related to health. That was not the only reason. The other was that I was on what some called a serious health kick and was looking for ways to lose some weight and regain my health. Like many people who come into what we call consciousness, you suddenly become exposed to a person many people call Dr. Sebi. So while researching Dr. Sebi, you'll find out that he promoted an alkaline diet, but he also sold herbal products to help provide additional minerals and vitamins to those who followed his diet. He was heralded as a health guru who cured diseases that have plagued a lot of people. I heard he was involved with several famous people like Michael Jackson, Lisa Left Eye Lopez, and a few others. As I began to look into Dr. Sebi more, I noticed something was missing from his claims. That missing element was his evidence for his claims. And I will admit, initially, like many of us, we believe what the masses believed until we begin to uncover the truth for ourselves. So I applied that same research methodology to Dr. Sebi's claims, and as I did with other areas of study. And here lies the issue. His biggest claims are to cure viruses that have plagued mankind for a while now. And I saw that as amazing until I began to look for his published work to support the data. I found absolutely nothing that scientifically supported his claims, and that threw me for a tailspin. I immediately dropped his diet and stopped purchasing his products. And then I began to look into court documents about his claims and practices, only to realize he has not cured anyone of what he said he did. However, he helped treat them and provide them with alternatives that prolong symptoms. At this moment, I had to deal with the reality of understanding viruses, vaccines, and more. So fast forward back to the YouTube discussion I was a part of on the channel Dagger Squad. And the channel owner named Garfield Reed, a credit specialist from Jamaica who currently resides in the New York area. He would often have all types of people on his channel that push certain information, but mainly he talked, debated, or argued about the biblical narratives and texts. Now, I specifically brought up where Garfield resides because the community we are a part of, online or otherwise, is 80 or 90% of the information around the community comes from that area. It has been for some time, especially during the era of the Harlem Renaissance. However, it was April of 2019, and I put together a presentation called The Cure. In this presentation, I discussed the history of vaccines, vaccine courts, and vaccine benefits. In that same month, Brother Unc was part of several conversations debunking vaccine myths and more. The conversation spilled over to other works, and by the end of 2019, Brother Unc had landed himself in a vaccine debate with the leading anti-vaccine talking heads in America, Robert F. Kennedy and Dale Bigtree. During that debate, Brother Unc asked one question: if not vaccines, then what? To no avail, we did not get an answer to that question. The saddest part about the debate was the fact that the Samoa was experiencing a huge MMR outbreak. And here we have pushing people to refuse a preventative measure that has worked for hundreds of years. Prior to the Samoa outbreak, Brooklyn, New York was experiencing issues with a small Jewish community who had seemed to be experiencing its own outbreak due to someone who had traveled outside the country and returned. Within this moment, everything I had been learning while listening to this debate made me realize that people lacked proper research methodology and did not fully understand the immune system. However, that was not all I noticed in this debate. I realized people had been misled by pseudoscientific claims from anti-vaccine community that has yet to prove its case using sound data, but only claims when asked for scientific evidence to prove its case. The argument stayed speculative. The moment Unc asked Dale Bigtree what he would do as a solution for his child against a virus, he stated he would expose his child to the virus and let nature take its course. That response settled the debate for me and pushed me to start understanding the field of virology and immunology right away. Not a few weeks later, SARS-CoV-2, coronavirus 19, began to make national news. I began learning about this particular coronavirus, understanding that the threat of a pandemic was certain. I read a few open access articles, and then I would share what I've read on social media page. As the days grew and cases emerged, I just kept reading qualified sources. And over time, I began to have some kind of command and understanding of the information that I was reading. I paid close attention to the key parts of certain scientific journals. Those parts were the method, the results, and the conclusions specifically. Most of the scientific jargon I read along the way, I would look up the words and try to understand them. However, some of the words are just extraordinary. Although I had a basic understanding, I wanted to help the layman properly understand viruses, the immune system, and more about COVID-19 and its side effects. I also wanted to be sure that people understood the evolution of vaccine science due to an influx of social media myths and pseudo-wisdoms that controlled the narrative for quite some time, while the scientific community just ignored the noise. I am of the belief that the general public never fully understood what viruses are, how the immune system actually functions, or how vaccine science has evolved. This is partly due to an organized effort by anti-vaxxers throughout history, and the inability to not know has led to one of the most deadly occurrences in human history. And now you're about to learn more about what SARS-CoV-2 taught me.
My brother. Dr. Cole, can you just weigh in just a little bit on hearing, and you have the book, hearing Shawn's introduction and his journey into getting up to speed on all these things that, of course, the doctors and people who have studied biology and virology and immunology have to go through as a profession. But just Shawn wanting to know about this information, to get it out to his people. Do you have something that you can say about his journey, about what he just read and how he went about that process as a layman?
So what I can appreciate is him not just following the crowd and just believing what everybody else is doing. And you probably gonna get a lot of smoke talk about Dr. Sebi.
I'm following up on that.
Just like talking about Jesus.
Yeah. So you know what? She brought that up, and I was going to bring that up, Shawn, because Dr. Sebi in our community, in the so-called woke community, in the so-called conscious community, he's the sacred cow, and he's part of the foundation of the natural healing, the anti-medical establishment. And I hear you fighting that fight. I hear Unc fighting that fight anytime that he wants to, and Unc just straight out, uses the word charlatan. But have you gotten a lot of pushback, as Dr. Cole said, some smoke about how you related to the information that you gave about Dr. Sebi? And I believe you even talk more about it in the book, but talk to me a little bit about that. And why is that? Why do we feel that strongly about Dr. Sebi?
I think people felt so strongly about Dr. Sebi. I hate to do this. I'm gonna be honest. Ignorance. Ignorance will make you feel that way about someone. The need to feel like worshiping someone or believing in someone would make you feel like that. Like, here you have this man, right? Mr. Bowman, before he becomes Dr. Sebi, he's a brother working to heal himself and not want to use Western medicine and go through the natural course of being able to deal with what he was dealing with. I think he said he had a bout with diabetes, and he went through a phase to where he would just starve out quote unquote viruses or per se, or the disease. And then he would restore some type of oath into his body that would help him heal, or go through a natural phasing where that healing would take place and occur. Then it would go on to grow from that. Like, if you look at the mythology of certain characters in human history, if you look back and you hear the stories about, or the claims that were made about Sebi, you would then see why people deified him, mainly because it felt like he was anti-government. That's just the truth of the matter. So anything anti-government or anti-establishment was like a big chest bumping situation among people of color, us mainly. And we felt like, the government was trying to kill us. They got us eating these bad foods. They were trying to do certain things. They didn't want us to have this, like all these restrictions we basically, we deified the government. We gave them the ability to be stronger than what they really were, especially over our lives. And that played a role. So yeah, I mean, I haven't got any smoke for I'm up for it. Anybody that want it, but I haven't really dealt with it like that. Because I'm gonna tell you why I haven't really dealt with it like that. Most people haven't read it. And the ones that have, pretty much already know. However, I'm in those Dr. Sebi groups. I'm in those groups about what to eat and all of those things. See, they can't talk to me like they could talk to like Brother Unc. He ain't never did the diet. See, I did Dr. Sebi's diet and I participated in those products. That's a big difference from everybody else. I've been on that side where I've walked down that line of what he was prescribing. You know what I'm saying? Like literally going down there, following those teachings. And then you come to find out it's not really that. I give him credit for making people health conscious, but the healing, that was the fallacious attempt to manipulate people into thinking that he was doing something that he never did. There's no blood work. He owned no lab. There was no way that he could properly test and see if anyone cleared any diseases, if it wasn't in their bloodstream, because your blood don't lie. It's going to tell you if something is in it that doesn't need to be there or that has been in there. If you're infected by a virus or you have some type of disease, contraction, it's in the blood. Am I lying, Dr. Cole?
Well, specifically things like curing HIV, curing diabetes, we have simple tests for that available now. So I would agree that I think it did make people focus on being more health conscious, focus on what they're eating, focusing on eating more plant-based and that's what I talk to my patients about all the time. But I would agree that I've had conversations with lots of people as far as being anti-government, anti-establishment, anti-white supremacy, I mean, I think everybody can get with that, or at least should. But then when you cross over to saying that you cured somebody of a disease, then you're going to a different arena. And that can be dangerous if the person think they're cured of the disease and they're not.
Okay. Well, you know what? We could do a whole long thing on Dr. Sebi, and I know Ankh is. I don't know if Ankh is still out there. I saw him.
That's why Michael Jackson didn't pay him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And you know what? But I'm glad that we even got a chance to talk about that, because that's an elephant in the room a lot when we talk about natural healing. He's the benchmark in our community for the natural healing campaign, and I'm glad you talk about it. But I want to do these chapters one by one. Shawn, you're going to say something?
I got to.
Go ahead.
He's a promoter. He's a promoter for the alkaline diet and mucusless diet. Mucus is one of the frontline fighters in the discussion we're having right now. Your mucus. Besides that, it's your skin. So when you're talking about it, when you're talking about your first line of protection, your skin and your mucus. He's a proponent for a mucusless diet. So what happens if we remove the mucus? We're susceptible to inhaling even more viruses, right, than we inhale every time we take a deep breath or whatnot. Those little 6 liters, we probably get 8, 9, 10 liters or something, and Corona come on right on down.
And I do want to say a lot of people, a lot of Dr. Sebi supporters will say, Dr. Sebi's not here with us to say something that people are saying something against a person who is not here to defend himself. But you know, I happen to know that you guys were saying this when Dr. Sebi was among us, especially you, after saying that, you know, you walked down that path that he was talking about. So before we move to these chapters, Shawn, is there anything else you wanted to say about what you read in the introduction, Dr. Sebi, or otherwise?
Yeah. So I what I basically said in this introduction was the key thing is about instances in history that actually happened to show the power of the natural world, and and how if we're not protected against these foreign pathogens, you know, how deadly they can occur. So you have the outbreak in Brooklyn, you have the Samoa outbreak, and that outbreak was led primarily by misinformation and poor children. You know, to have someone improperly administer a mixed dosage of a vaccine that ends up taking the life of one child or two children, and then they halt the vaccine efforts in the middle of a huge outbreak on that island, and then only to investigate and find out the misuse of these vials and what they actually concocted to give these children intentionally. So there was negligence in play that led to that, which caused more lives to be ruined by an outbreak and a virus that was just running through children. And then they had to go and vaccinate 94, 95% of their population just to get things under control. I want y'all to think about that. They were in the middle of an outbreak. It was ravaging their island. They halted everything that they had to halt. And they had a working vaccine, but negligence was in play. They found out and uncovered the negligence that was in play. And then they resumed vaccine efforts, but they had to work 3 times, 4 times as fast. And the only person that's on this panel that can sit here with open eyes and say, I know what that feels like, is Dr. Cole, because that's what she's trying to do right now in dealing with these patients and making sure that everybody is properly protected. And they went through that before we got to where we are in the pandemic. Had we learned from Samoa, ladies and gentlemen, we would know not to play with viruses.
All right. And real quick, Shawn, before we get into chapter 1, understanding the viruses, if you can talk just, and you can take your time, I don't want to say real quick, but, you know, we get so much information. You know, we have your book, and you know, and we have, you know, and I've gone through my book list of things dealing with the virus and scientific and medical literacy. But we get so much of our information through social media. We get information from TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and all of that. You know, even Wikipedia, we Google information, and a lot of times we find ourselves in an echo chamber or dealing with confirmation bias, where if you want to find something that you're looking for to confirm whatever it is you're talking about, you can find it. How can you, for the people that are watching this currently and for the people that will be watching this, how, because you've done this successfully, what are your feelings about checking sources, fact checking? How do you validate information that comes across specifically through social media?
This one is not as difficult as people may think. And your algorithms are pretty much set up to support your biases. So whatever you're looking up, right, you're going to find something that is in favor for it. The test or the challenge is, are you willing to go look for the opinions that are opposite of what you're doing? That is where the challenge comes in, because everybody can look and go find something. And we're in constant arguments all the time where people grab something real quick, throw it online and thinks it's supported, whether they've read it or not. And usually when they do that, we know immediately if they read it or not, because, you know, many people, we always say, and Uncle, cue it up, you died your source. So what I began to do is that when you understand proper research methodology, before you get into anything, when you're doing your collection of data, you got to have your pros and cons, and you have to scrutinize it. So whatever the source is that you initially got, ladies and gentlemen, you have to go and look up the resources that follow that source. So whatever that source that you got, I don't care whatever outlet it comes from, you have to scroll all the way down. If you don't see any additional information or a title that says additional sources or sources at all, and you can't go nowhere, all you're reading is someone's opinion about something and they don't have the evidence for it. If they don't have highlighted material where it's blue or red and you can click on it and it takes you to another page, it's not credible. You will start to pick up on how this misinformation trail happens because of where these sources lead you. But you have to read the pros and cons. Then you have to qualify those. You can't hesitate to not even fact check some of this stuff. And now you got to learn where to go to fact check and do all of that. There's fact checking sites that these people spend their days and hours of their days doing some of these things, and then you deal with it. So if TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever social media site that you're using is blabbering information, you can easily put it in your Google search and then go do your pros and cons, and then you find the scientific evidence that's supported. The problem is there's a lack of knowing what science look like and what gibberish look like. And that's where the problem comes in. So we got to do a better job at understanding, hey, what credential sites look like. And if you have the book, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who have the book, you will see like these sources and how they're labeled. And then you go and you pull and look up those sources and extract those, you're going to see it. But mainly, most of your information about pandemic stuff that's been going on is going to hinge on the studies that have been published and printed, because everybody's arguing about the science that has been done. Now, what anti-vaxxers do is manipulate that data in favor for themselves, and the science community wasn't arguing against it because they didn't have time. People dying, they in the hospitals working. They ain't got time for that. You know what I'm saying? So they manipulated their way all the way through in 2020, 2021. But remember, we got a whole new wave of new pseudoisms. We're not even arguing about the end of 2019, 2020 5G. We didn't get way past those things. So we say, but
well, and I wanted to ask Dr. Cole, like, I can only imagine when, okay, we're not asking about your specific patients, but just you as a medical doctor in general, how often do you have to deal with Google medicine, where people are saying, hey, I read that if you eat dirt and mix it with Clorox, you can, how often do you have to deal with non-scientific, non-medically structured information?
Well, the advantage I have is that as a primary care physician, I see my patients on a regular basis. So I develop a relationship with them over time, over years and years and years. And so I like to, for lack of a better word, train and educate my patients not to do those things. Call me, send a patient portal message, don't go on the internet. So when I meet a patient, within the first few visits, my patients learn not to ask me those questions, because I'm accessible enough that I tell them, you don't need Dr. Google anymore. Shoot me a patient portal message, call the office, talk to the nurse, make an appointment in the office and video visit now. There's no need for you to use the internet anymore for your information. So I have the luxury of having my group of patients who I educate so they stop doing that.
Okay, Dr. Cole.
And they know, don't ask me about what you Google. Let's talk about what you have, what is, let's test for it if we can. Let's talk about it, fix it, or for most things, I don't fix anything, we manage it.
Okay, all right. So, anything to add to that one before we move into understanding viruses, chapter 1?
Nah, man, I think that approach should be the standard. You know what I mean? Just like the what was that? The pediatric doctor in Alabama. That gentleman, he put a sign on his door. You know, if you coming in here with that misinformation, you might as well go find you another doctor. Because I'm not entertaining it. You know, and he didn't say it like that, but he put that sign up and he told them people, don't come in, you know, go find you another
Don't
one.
come here with that foolishness.
Yeah, I ain't got time. I ain't got time for that. I'm trying to save real lives, and I ain't no.
Yeah, but you know, Shawn, we did forget about the 5G. We forgot about the 5G was going to cause the virus. So we moved on from that one, and we moved on to the computer chips and then we move on from that, and then we move on for that. Man, it has to be an exhausting life to be a conspiracy theorist, because you got to stay on your toes, because the truth catches up with you quick. You got to move on to a different conspiracy.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say one more thing before we go on. This is the latest thing that I've been saying to my patients now. At first it was, you cannot hide from this virus. What I tell people now is, we are not the most important organisms on this planet. Did I say this before?
No, but you said it to me, but I don't think you said it on the...
I tell my patients, the most important organisms on this planet you cannot see. The plankton in the ocean are more important to the earth than we are. So that we have a lot, as human beings, we have a lot of, I call it an overinflated sense of self.
As a matter of fact, you didn't say it to us, but you sent it. You asked me to share that with Shawn. I believe that's one of the quotes that I passed on to Shawn.
I love that. I love it, because we're not the most important organism on this planet. You know, by far we're not. It took a virus to help us even get to where we are in our development, as far as Homo sapiens sapiens is concerned, or just hominids itself. Like a virus. Think about that. The same thing that people run from. And that's why I felt like the way that, I know it kind of segues into chapter 1, but we needed to understand what viruses are. And most people don't.
Well, we're taking us to chapter 1, understanding viruses. And I think that's at the forefront of misinformation, disinformation, and just people being confused altogether about understanding viruses. So just give us a little bit about what information, what it taught you to understand, and what you want people to know about viruses and understanding viruses, as you covered it in chapter 1.
Right. So I wanted people to understand what viruses are. And you heard Dr. Cole said, it's, you know, we can't see these things. You need a powerful microscope, right? Really, to just really get under there and actually see these viruses and how they're structured. And then you have to understand their behavior. They're not alive, but they exist. And we as human beings, we enter territories where these viruses have lived unabated, unbothered in their own right. And we tear down these trees and we build these houses, and we're next to these reserves or lakes or ponds where you have the potential of encountering these viruses. You have now exposed yourself to these things, whether they are infectious or not. So in chapter 1, I wanted to talk about what a virus was. And I wanted people to understand that they're very small microorganisms. I wanted people to understand that there were two different types of viruses. You got an RNA and then you got DNA viruses, right? And most people don't understand that part, is that there's two different types of viruses. People hear viruses and they're all lumped together. No, they're different. They work in different ways. They affect or attack different parts of the body. So I wanted people to pretty much understand that. And with what SARS-CoV-2 has taught us and shown us is that these viruses or these pathogens, right? They look for a host. They attach themselves to a host through the cell, and they enter the cell and use you against you to replicate itself and spread itself among you, and then it goes on and attaches itself to another host. However, if you're the only one that encounters this particular virus, and no one, and you're not around anyone for weeks or so, that virus doesn't have a chance to actually survive itself or to keep its strength. However, most people don't get that part either. So in short, I just really wanted people to understand, that this virus, it don't care who you look like, doesn't care what color your eyes is, don't care how alkaline of a body or state of the body you think you got, doesn't care about these herbs, none of that matters to a virus. A virus is going to infect you regardless, and they will continue. Polio is still around here. You don't see people bent or slumped over because we've been heavily vaccinated against it. But you best believe all those 14 eradicated viruses that we're vaccinated against in our country, they still exist. They're still attacking. You're just not seeing any, you're not seeing many cases of that roaming around. However, in Florida, not too long ago, there was a chickenpox little outbreak in the school, and they had to call all the parents to tell people, hey, look, we got some type of chickenpox virus going around. If your kids are not vaccinated against the chickenpox, you need to go do that. Them kids didn't know nothing about no chickenpox.
Yeah, well, chickenpox and smallpox in particular is something that we haven't seen around in our culture, in our community, in our country for a long time. And people, we often say that we're a victim of our own success because we haven't seen a lot of those polio, smallpox, mumps, measles. We forget how beneficial vaccines are. Thank goodness that that we weren't on all this, when we had to deal with measles, mumps, and polio and all that, because we'd have a
smallpox. Oh, what about this though? All right, I want to, because I brought this up on Facebook the other day, smallpox, right? So so everybody was vaccinated against smallpox or whatever. Then an outbreak occurs among the Black community, and they hear about this outbreak, and they label smallpox the nigger itch, right? So white people didn't think that they were susceptible of catching it until it crosses over to them. Then it widespread. What happens? They began a massive vaccination campaign. They were running up in people's houses. People want to know how we gonna have to control COVID. We're gonna have to run up in y'all houses, hold y'all down, vaccinate everybody in the whole house at gunpoint, and then go on to the next, like they did during the smallpox.
During the turn of the century, right?
Yeah. I think that's what we will have to do, because it's crazy. Everybody's complaining. Oh, these different, every month we're talking about a different variant. Well, you don't understand that viruses adapt and mutate. It is what they do. They adapt and they mutate and they change certain places. These mutations take place at the spike. You know what I mean? And we know this because we've been following the path, and we can see they become either more infectious or they become less relevant. We've seen this happen. We're not talking about the ancestral virus D614G. We don't have that conversation anymore. If for anyone that don't know what I'm actually talking about, that is the virus that actually set it off from Wuhan, China. All right, that is the initial virus. We don't have that conversation about that no more. We don't even talk about some of those earlier variants that everybody was publicizing on the media. We talk about what doctors know as variants of concern, VOC. And now we're stuck in the phase of the most memorable Alpha, Delta, and now Omicron. So we need to follow the science. And I'll probably talk about variants, and Dr. Cole may talk about variants a little bit later, how we even get to a point, but we don't want to confuse that with, I know some people argue strands of variants, but we don't want to confuse it a little bit because the science says so, but it is what it is.
Okay, and for people that are tuning in, we're here with author Innate Shawn P, and his book, What SARS-CoV-2 Taught Me. We're also privileged to have Dr. Bonita Cole here with us. And I remember when we were talking to Dr. Cole a while back, she was talking about how some viruses are more successful than others, and some viruses are better at evading us, evading vaccines. And I believe she talked about how some viruses were a little more trickier than others to get a handle on. Can you just give us a brief summation of that point that you talked with us at another time, Dr. Cole, but just refresh us? And you're on mute. You're on mute, Dr. Cole.
The point that I was making at that time was people often ask, why don't we have a vaccine for HIV? And my answer to the question was, it's because of how the HIV virus functions. The HIV virus specifically is still around, and we still don't have a vaccine for it because it actually attacks the immune system. It attacks the cells in the immune system that you need to mount an immune response. So it's hard to make a vaccine against a virus that attacks your immune system because you need an intact immune system to make antibodies against the virus. And so that's why it's been so challenging to have a vaccine against HIV. I believe that's the point I was trying to make at that time.
I think it was. And thank you for that refresher, because that often comes up, Shawn. They came up with this vaccine so quick, and they still haven't come up with something for HIV, AIDS, HIV. That's how you know that this vaccine for COVID-19 is fraudulent. But you know, and I'm glad, Dr. Cole, but that's just knowing viruses. Some viruses are different than others, and they have
I don't think they really understand what she just said, though, because it is evasive, ladies and gentlemen. Not only does it attack, HIV is tricky. It can hide in your brain and then disperse itself back out other places. It bounces around. It's like getting shot with a 22 and you might be overweight. So imagine where that bullet can go. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're saying the 22 is probably, that little bullet is probably the worst bullets to get shot by because it's so small and it can just go anywhere. But just speed that up times 1,000 and then that's what you get with what she's saying.
All right. And people, if anytime anybody in the chat wants to ask a question as we move through these chapters, feel free to do so. I'm glad to see that people are joining us. And while you're in the chat, make sure you share this, let people know. And while you're here, show some love to the Micro Solutions, to the Chill Talk, the Chill Vision platforms. Hit the, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Understanding the immune system. I mean, I think, Shawn, that's one of the most misunderstood, because people just in general didn't really understand viruses, but people think that they understand the immune system. They think they understand how we get immunity. And that's how we get this misinformation of thinking that we can affect the immune system in ways that we simply just cannot. But I'll let you go ahead and break that down. Talk to us about understanding the immune system and how you work that chapter out.
All right, so I knew that understanding the immune system was very important for many reasons. Not only because Wujao was, pretty much saying, hey, let's back all the way up. Let's start with the immune system and then work our way forward earlier on in our arguments about vaccines and things of that nature. But when you listen to the way people think that their immune system works, they don't know if the immune system is like a organ or what the actual immune system is or what makes up the immune system. So when we phrase the question, or if you phrase the question, where is your immune system located? They don't give you an answer to that. Or if you say, well, what type, if you ask them about if it's innate or adaptive, they're like, what? So they don't know these things. And I felt like if we just got down to the basics and understood it at its root, that what makes up your immune system is very key. Earlier, you heard me mention your skin and mucus. Those are frontliners in this whole battle, right? We're talking innate here. These are things that you have. These are things that you got going with you, your tears in your eyes and all of that, the hair in your nose, all of those things, they play an important factor. You just don't have all of this around you just to be having it around you. Your body is the way that it is and made up the way that it is to help protect you against those foreign pathogens that have been here longer than we ever have. So I felt like getting into the immune system and getting some basic understanding of that, letting people know that, hey, look, you can train your immune system, but and strengthen your immune system, but you can't boost your immune system, because if you boost it, right? If you boost it, you'll kill yourself. So it was fallacious to actually have that. And I got that understanding from Brother Nahisi. He was like, the best way to explain strengthening your immune system is to just say that. When people say boost, it's pretty much an unsettled argument. You see those health.com sites, they might say boost, but they're trying to sell products. They out to sell products and get you interested in those items and vitamins and things that they're selling. But, you strengthen your immune system. However, a novel pathogen and other pathogens, they really don't care about if you think you can do anything, because it didn't fought the strongest and the weakest across the board. It attacked every organ in their body and created multiple symptoms in all of these people. So we needed to understand, right, from an alternative method standpoint, can herbs create an immune response? And earlier, although we got the answer to that question, I'm bringing it back up because it needs to be reiterated that herbs, AKA, are foods, and how can an herb recognize a pathogen and then train your immune system how to do that? That herb must be a revolutionized super herb. Like, that herb can recognize things that it ain't never encountered before. It must come from space. Aliens must have delivered it to us.
Well, you know what? Because Dr. Cole, that's one of the things that Dr. Cole was just saying when she was saying, in talking about recognizing a novel virus, meaning that your body has never seen it before. And we weren't, I wasn't really joking about all those things that people talk about, but Dr. Cole, again, can you just break down for us again, when a virus is a novel virus, what does that mean to your body, and why can't you affect your immune system to fight a novel virus with a food or an herb? I mean, we kind of joked about the things, but those are actual things that people talk about. But why don't those things affect that process?
So novel means that basically human beings have never seen it before. So this is a new virus in the sense that nobody on the planet's immune system has seen this virus before. And like I said before, you can't fight, your immune system can't mount an immune response to an organism that it hasn't seen. And your immune system, the way it works against bacteria and viruses and organisms, like bacteria, viruses, fungus, those are three big categories of organisms that come from the environment and can cause disease in humans. Your body can't fight that off and mount an immune response if it's never seen it before. Your body has to take parts of that organism and make antibodies to it to attach onto it, and then the immune system uses those antibodies to kill each viral particle and swallow them up and chew them up. And that's how the immune system works. I'm using it in layman's terms. I'm not trying to speak like a virologist or anyway. So you can't, as a doctor, when people ask me about vitamins, I don't tell people to take vitamins at all. I think in order to have a healthy immune system, you should eat healthy. Your body wants healthy food. So your fruits and your vegetables, lots of water. Like I saw a patient today who's has pre-diabetes. He's trying not to go to diabetes. And I'm telling him that, you got to watch the starches. So the bread, rice, pasta, and white potatoes. And he says, well, what do you want me to eat? And I gave up. He said, I gave up my apple cider. I gave up my juice. And he said, all I can drink is water. Is that what you're telling me? That's all I can drink is water. I said, look at it this way. If you were an animal in the wild, what would you be drinking? That's what I tell people when they tell me that.
Okay, all right.
You would not be drinking juice. You would not be drinking apple cider. You're not going to drink sodas. Animals drink water. And technically, as a human being, that's all you need to drink.
Right. So you're saying when the gazelles and the buffaloes and they go to the creek, they not looking for some orange juice. The pineapple juice isn't keeping them alive. All right, Shawn, and I know Shawn, I know you're looking over in the chat. Okay, I see some of your people just in there handling. They still want you about Dr. Sebi.
Yeah. Well, that's brother. That's brother William. You know what I mean? I had a conversation with him before. He's a big enthusiast because he felt like, he was one who believes in the herbs and thinking that he could help people get rid of symptoms in 72 hours. And I'm like, you don't know what you're saying, and stuff like that. Be careful, because what you're trying to help them do is you're trying to help them deal with symptoms. I understand it. From your perspective, you're trying to help them deal with the onset of symptoms. But if those symptoms continue to prolong and then that disease continues to spread, and like K. Slay, he had a 14-day bout with COVID before he's hospitalized, and now he's on an ECMO machine. So your herbs and you're trying to keep their those symptoms down, that's not going to stop them from progressing. This virus is aggressive, and you know, it does things to the human body that we really haven't seen too much from other viruses that have plagued us in human history. I mean, that's why the next chapter is what it is, because as soon as you come out of the immune system, it's right on to transmission and the spread and all of that stuff. And it deals with the effectiveness of the symptoms. So,
well, let's move right into the symptoms and into how and transmission, because that's the problem that we have. I mean, you know, like you said, one person gets it, you stay at home, you know, you good. But if you're out here sneezing and coughing and shaking hands and spitting and breathing on people, we dealing with transmission. So talk about the spread, talk about transmission.
All right, so this chapter, I probably could update it with what I know now. And I say probably could update it is because, you know, I don't really dive too much into the, well, I think scientists really don't care, but the R naught status, which means what is the infectivity of a person or the transmissibility of the virus from one person that comes in. So each variant has a different R naught. Before, I think alpha, when if a person that was infectious walked into a room, he can infect 1 in every 5 or 1 in every 3 or something like that. And then Delta was a few more people. And then it began to be like almost, you know, like between 5 and 7, maybe even 10 people. So that means if I'm infectious, I walk in a room, it's 20 people in the room, and I have the ability, me, one person, have the ability to infect half the people in that room. And, you know, and this transmission is rapid. And, you know, specifically with the Delta variant, if you ate at a restaurant or you're in a movie theater or you're in a public setting and things of that nature, you can contract this, right? You can contract it within 45 minutes. So I began to understand that based on actual sound science. And then, you know, with Omicron, they're like 10 to 15 minutes. Because of the mutations, the evasiveness, it's more infectious. It doesn't take long. This is why those numbers can jump up the way that it actually jump up, because it's more infectious than the previous variants, but it's not as severe as far as the spread of disease. So this one, man, is pretty much about how things work. Now, when you're infected and you go through a host of symptoms, science took me in the direction of 256 symptoms could occur in a human body, but the human body could average around 50 or so symptoms. Now, we only pay attention to a minute part of those symptoms, like sneezing, maybe our throat, maybe our eyes might be watering, maybe I might have a slight headache, maybe my chest, something in my stomach area may not feel good or whatever. We do a lot of self-diagnosing, but we really don't know what's going on. And I think this pandemic has halted us being able to know more about what's really going on with people who've been naturally infected with this, because they haven't been able to go in and do a deep dive on the symptoms and how long these symptoms are occurring, like long COVID, but how is it holding up? How your lungs holding up? When you get a perfect, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I know in talking to Dr. Cole, when you talk about transmission and you can get it, you know, when you go to how transmissible it is at the movies or at the beauty salon or at the disco, or, you know, Dr. Cole's advice is simple. Don't take your ass to those places. and she's serious about that. Especially when it's places that are some places that we think are necessary. Dr. Cole said they not all that necessary. You know, few places, I don't know, we might argue with her that it's necessary, but she's saying it's not. But real quick, Dr. Cole, just kind of interject about our lifestyle that we have to mentally change during this pandemic, and things that we think we can't do without going to, that we really might not need to be going there.
So I'll start by lamenting again that if we had shut everything down and everybody stayed home back in March 2020, we wouldn't be talking about this.
But we didn't, because we wanted to go to Bob Evans.
We want to do what we want to do when we want to do it. The viruses don't care about that. So I will just fast forward to today, and what I tell my patients: stop getting on planes, stop going to restaurants, stop going to weddings, funerals, baby showers, gender reveal parties. We need to stop doing all of that. Barbershops, beauty salons. And I understand that everything that I just listed is somebody's business, somebody's livelihood. But if we had done that in March 2020, we would be finished with this. And then to the second part of your question, as far as altering our lifestyles, I've had a lot of patients who have quit their jobs, decided, I'm going to use this pandemic to do something different. So many people, now that we have the internet, so many people have started their own businesses. They've started a new revenue stream for themselves. People are figuring out different ways to live, and we're not going back. We keep saying when the pandemic is over. I don't know when that's going to be, but our lifestyle and how we live is not going to change. Like, we're not going back. We need to stop thinking about the world as it used to be, because we're in a new world, and we're not. It's not going back to the way it was. If you have a barbershop or a beauty salon, people have figured out different ways to make a living, selling a product, certainly, masks and face shields. Just like human beings figure it out, or we don't.
We work it out or we die. we adapt to change, and that's evolution.
And part of evolution is if you're in an industry where you cannot be safe and protect yourself and social distance and wear masks, you're going to go the way of the coal industry. You're just going to be gone, and you're just not coming back. And that's why a lot of people I have so many patients who have told me they've figured out how to reinvent themselves, and they're actually doing very well, and they actually don't want to go back.
Shawn,
for a lot of people, it's hard to hear, but if you want to live, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, I'm sorry for interrupting you, but Shawn, Dr. Cole just said we're not going back to the way that it was pre-pandemic. That's right. That's deep, bro. That's a heavy statement.
Yeah. The reason that we're not going to is we still got 100 million unvaccinated people. So we don't have a control on the pandemic. And I agree with her. We opened up too quick instead of, imagine the time had we just had to shut down maybe 90 more days. And in that 90 more days, we got everybody vaccinated. In that course, then there's a different onset of what we come out of, and we look at it. Still wouldn't be a new normal. Still, it still wouldn't be as it was before. It'll be a new normal, but we would have a better chance. Why? Because we didn't allow the virus to continue to adapt and mutate and become as evasive as it is. You know what I mean? So there's a controllable measure that people play or have a role in this, that people play, and it's a public health crisis. So if everybody's not doing their part to get vaccinated, to continue to practice social distancing, to keep the gathering small, to not do certain things that Dr. Cole has already stated, you know, then we wouldn't be in the position that we're in, or we continue to be in the position that we're in because we don't care anything about that. And the problem that I actually have with people is that, yeah, it's your choice, right? But your choice can take the life of someone very close to me, and that you're not considering. And it doesn't even dawn on you that that's what you're doing until your family member dies. And then you realize that such and such was at their house the other day and they actually had COVID, and that ended up taking them on out of here. And then you're like, we can't continue to live our lives waiting till we hit that knock at our doorstep and then we answer. We have to be proactive in this. This is something very unique and serious that we have to take care of, and it takes everybody. And yeah, like Chavis said in the chat, man, China has shut down several times. China has shut down. Japan has shut down. These foreign countries, look at how many times Australia has shut down. Australia had one case, the whole island was shut down. One. Everything shut down. I don't care nothing about what you got going on. You shut down. China was so strict. They had people policing you leaving your residence. Literally. What is your purpose? You had to have a hall pass, my guy, to go to the store in China. Like
is that the footage I saw? If they catch you outside, then you might get your ass whooped with a cane.
Yes, sir.
And what did I text you the other day, Chill?
We all have a date with Omicron.
Yeah.
And what I tell you, I don't want a date with Omicron. I want a date with Pam Grier.
It's that we all, how did it go? We all will have a date with Omicron, but you want to make sure that when that day comes, you're fully vaccinated and boosted.
Right. That's what you said.
Yes.
And I think we need to understand that. And Shawn, I do want to talk to you about breakthrough infections, but I want to kind of real quick talk about, I think now we're understanding, or we should understand, that there's no barriers around our different nations, around our countries. I think we're understanding now that we're really a global society. You know, we got this from something that started in Wuhan, China. All right. Like a month ago, maybe, we heard that there was a new variant in South Africa. And now everybody over here has that. That we're living in a global community. That's Shawn, because this is at the heart of part of the conspiracy theory. When my man that they was blaming for the Microsoft, what's my Microsoft man's name?
Gates.
Yeah, Bill Gates. When Bill Gates 3 years ago, more than 3 years ago, several years ago, we're telling people that we need to get vaccines and healthcare to these different countries where they don't have healthcare, where they don't have viruses, where they don't have vaccines, where they don't, that because their fate is going to end up being our fate. And instead of taking that information to heart, we start talking about, how the hell did he already know that this was going to happen? And he knew it because he planned it. He started it. He created it. Man, come on, stop it, y'all. But, right. We've been warned and we didn't listen. And we want to blame the people that warned us.
Yeah, we're warned every year. You know, you got like you got tornado chasers, you got virus chasers. You know, they invest, governments invest money in tracking viruses, right? Like the flu, for instance. They knew the flu would be more severe this year. Why? Because they've been paying attention to the flu. But at the same time, people have gotten to go back out and no mask on. And when you're at Walmart, instead of them being respecting them blue lines, they back up on you now. So now you got to get to the front of your car where you can create at least 3 to 5 feet of distance from that person, and they don't know why you're doing it. And then you got somebody coughing, 3 people behind that person, and everybody looking back. You know what I mean? And it's just where we are in this particular element. But Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation invest money in trying to solve public health issues. And it's unfortunate that conspiracy theorists go down that road to, you know, try to manipulate the minds of people. Like, why are they so heavily invested in these things? Well, he's trying to solve problems. He's made enough money doing the things that he loved to do that he stepped away from that now to solve world health crisis. All right. So he invests money, but he is not, and he may be the number one, his foundation may be the number one contributor to something, but the amount, once you see how much money that is, and then you see that the world has way more money into it than this particular person, then you start to realize, oh, okay, it's not that big of a deal. But they're looking for the next pandemic and trying to prepare people for it. Think about this. 4 years ago, 5 years ago now, before we get the president that lost his dang on mind in the White House in there, we actually had a scientific community engaged in research on tracking coronaviruses and trying to work towards solutions. Had we been able to keep that program and it lost its funding, had we been able to keep its program and continue that research, think about how much further along. That was five years ago, right? Had we been able to keep that going after Obama left, we would have been ahead of the curve because we would have had a viable solution prepared to fight SARS-CoV-2. My thing about it is we're never going to stop conspiracies because people love them. They have these beliefs, they sound sexy, and the internet makes it real attractive. They might add some sound bites and some clips to it, spice it up real good. They make it look like that real pretty female on prom day that just comes out and you never thought she would look this good till she got her hair done and got her makeup on and she's got that real nice black dress and those heels on and she steps out in front of you like, golly, you know, and that's what they do with conspiracy theories. And the truth don't look like that. Right. The truth is just raw. It's too raw, I guess.
What's Aunt's famous saying?
A well-organized lie defeats a disorganized truth every time.
Every time. Oh, but for your remark about Walmart, Dr. Cole would say you don't need that damn overridden Baca popcorn. Stay your ass out of Walmart. But real quick on about the breakthrough, because Shawn, we talked earlier, and I wanted to make sure, and Dr. Cole, that we understand, because and Dr. Cole said it earlier, and Shawn, you said it. The purpose of the vaccine is it's not a cure. It has a specific purpose. So what happens is when we get vaccinated, and this is fuel to the misinformation. When we get vaccinated and people still get the virus, then that causes the anti-vaxxer or the new woke community to be like, aha, how come y'all still getting the damn virus and you got vaccinated? That's why I'm not Okay, somebody talk to me about the breakthrough cases.
So, like I said before, there's no vaccine that's perfect. The point of getting vaccinated against a disease is so you don't have serious illness or die from the disease. So nobody ever said that getting vaccinated will stop you from getting COVID-19. And now with the Omicron virus, that booster is really, really important. Not being fully vaccinated with the booster is still better than not being unvaccinated. But as time goes on with the new variants, not being boosted is not going to be too much better than being unvaccinated as this virus keeps mutating.
Okay, Shawn, talk. Oh, and for the people out there want me to ask Dr. Cole about Rizza Islam, I doubt very seriously if Dr. Cole know who the hell Rizza Islam is. But Shawn knows who he is.
So Rizza,
No, not
Rizza?
Wu-Tang. No, what'd you say?
And I don't know.
The only RZA you know is in the Wu-Tang clan.
Yeah. I think we have another doctor in the chat too, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's Dr. Thomas. She was in a conversation with us previously before too on another channel. So she always listens too. Yeah, sister. Yeah, she's gotta follow her too. But
talk about breakthrough.
All right. So again, we have to reiterate this. And we've said this, I said this before and I said it again, but the thing about this is you're talking about infection versus disease. And we keep saying this, infection versus disease. You can't stop something from infecting you that you can't see. It is a positive for a vaccine to protect you from infection. That's a positive. But there's only one vaccine that's out that's like that, and that's the HPV vaccine. It stops the infection. All the other vaccines are designed specifically to prevent the spread of infectious disease, hospitalizations, and death. We knew this when we got the data that came out in the phase 3 trials, that they tested specifically for that. These vaccines were designed specifically for that. Even if the vaccines were protected against infection, you're still going to have, and let me put it on the screen, you're still going to have something that looks like this occur. This right here is still going to occur. These little blue and red dots on these viruses will still occur. Those are mutations at the spike. They are going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, as the virus continues to adapt and mutate. They're all over the place. They're not going nowhere. The virus is learning how to stay and live in its element. Now that we know that, we also knew that when the vaccines rolled out, that we wouldn't see a large amount of breakthrough infections. We knew this. We wouldn't see a huge amount of breakthrough infections. The more people you get vaccinated, the more chances that you'll start to see the increase in the breakthroughs. And people have not paid attention to that. And everyone, and Dr. Cole will probably even agree with this as well. It's not about the infection. It's always going to be about the disease. And we need to focus on, is the vaccine working or if it's not working? And what I mean by, is it working? If it's keeping us out of the hospital, if it's keeping us from dying and it's preventing the spread of that disease, it's working. Remember, vaccinated people clear the virus faster. Vaccinated people, their symptoms are less. That's a working vaccine. We got epidemiological data that dropped maybe a week ago that stated, even with Omicron, hospitalizations are still readily high in unvaccinated people. You heard Dr. Cole come out and tell y'all that as well. So we know that the vaccine works. I might have broke up on y'all. Did I break up?
No, we hear you. You doing a lot of beating on the table though, but we hear you.
Yeah, I am, man. We know that the vaccine works, but so we just have to worry about that. Now, I like this because I wrote about it at the end of the book, but breakthrough is really a bad term for it by some virologists. They don't want to settle on the term breakthrough because, stuff happens. And I told y'all earlier, we're still running around an environment where we still have these other viruses that are trying to infect us as well, even other respiratory viruses that we've been vaccinated against. We just don't succumb to any symptoms. And if we did, they'll be mild or similar to the common cold. And you've heard, I don't know if everybody's heard this, but you have virologists and certain doctors out there saying that, the goal now should be to curb the symptoms to be likened as the common cold. And if that's the case, then that's more manageable and people will be more reluctant to, to do some of the things that they want to do. But we have to just vaccinate enough. We can't even get to an endemic and we're still having crazy spikes, like 100,000, 150,000, 180,000 infections in a day. That's crazy.
Okay, Linda, and this is a serious thing, and I don't know if we can answer this specific question, but I do want people to think about this. That during this pandemic, we have to really think about mental wellness. She says, she's asking about advice for people who are suffering from depression due to feeling isolated. Everybody ain't booed up. You at home looking out the window, afraid you're going to get the COVID with a K at the end. The COVID go get you. And they're saying, and are lacking interaction with others, but just that isolation. And everybody can understand that. And we may do, and I know I do plan on doing something later on about how this affects mental, because I went and grabbed this book, the Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health. All right, messing with my girl Rahita Walker. But I mean, I don't know if somebody even wants to talk about that before we because we're getting down to the last of the chapters. But are we hearing about mental health, how this affects people with depression and isolation? Man, this has to be a rough one.
Yeah, so fortunately, I'll say this as far as telemedicine and video visits. We've been trying to get the insurance companies to pay for those kind of things for 10 or 15 years. That's another thing we're not going back on. Once this is more managed, like Shawn says, we're not, and now patients are not, we're not going to give up on being able to use video visits. My point is, with respect to mental health, now you're not limited by location finding a mental health provider to help with psychological issues. I hate to sound hardcore, because first thing is you have to be alive to be isolated and depressed. That's the bottom line. I know people probably think that's kind of hard, but that's where my head is right now as far as keeping people alive. That's number one. And number two, like I said, anything else, we all have to come out of our comfort zone, which is obviously harder if you're isolated and depressed, and try and find different ways to live, different ways to engage, different ways to think about yourself and how you relate to others. Just like you mentioned the other day, I just had the bright idea. We had the game here at home. I said, this would be a good game. It's conducive to using Zoom. And I said, I just sent a text out to people who I thought would be fun and would enjoy it. And New Year's Eve, we're going to play Black Card Revoked. And I think everybody enjoyed it. It's just, we have to figure out a different way to live and still be human.
Well, I have to admit, Shawn, not only did I have a ball playing that game, but I will let you know right now. I'll share this with you. I got a little tipsy during the game. I was sipping during the game, and you.
His
Hey.
answers got stupider and stupider.
I had a ball playing that game. But yeah, no, but I mean, but that was fun. I mean, you guys weren't, I wasn't there with you guys. People were all over in different cities, different states. And you're right. I had fun.
Yeah, we gotta keep being creative like that.
Yeah, that's right. Shawn, talk to me about, and see, this is another thing that people are saying that I think is, I'm really having a problem understanding why they think like this. They're saying, see, why should I get vaccinated when we keep getting new variants and gonna end up needing to get booster after booster after booster? And I'm thinking, like, are you kidding? Do you not understand that the reason that we get the new variants is because y'all's asses won't get vaccinated? That's the cause of it. Like, come on.
Why I tell people we get the flu shot every fall. It's gonna be the same thing.
But how are they using that as a reason? How are they using variants not to get a shot?
It's ignorance, man. It goes back to our lack of not knowing. That is the ultimate, easiest way to define ignorance, not knowing. We don't know. So when they say certain things like that, they don't understand that they play a role in the virus having the ability to adapt and mutate. First of all, if we know we have 3 million people that are immunocompromised, that won't gain any type of protection, no matter how many times we vaccinate this portion of the population, we have to build what we call a force field around them, right? To protect them. Because if we have enough people vaccinated, you don't have a viable host, then the virus succumbs to really little to nothing. It'll feel like that cold when people are infected then that we were talking about. But we don't have that. So what you have is a virus entering people's bodies who probably have comorbidities, one or more diseases in their bodies, right? They're attacking that body. That person got all kind of stuff going on in their body. It's adjusting and adapting. Remember, the virus is using your body to replicate itself. And in that, it is adapting to the environment that it is in, that it is infecting. And then it comes out different than it goes in. Ladies and gentlemen, in an HIV patient that caught COVID, the virus multiplied 35 times before it left out of the body and infected whoever else it could have possibly infected. They knew this because they were sitting there and studying this lady. She was hospitalized for like months. And every time it was testing her. It was different.
So it mutated 35 times.
Man. Yes, it's doing it. We're seeing this real time. So if the doctors and the scientists can see this in these studies in real time, imagine that was in just one person. Imagine how many, that's why I said people with other diseases in their bodies. Imagine that in a population. It's adjusting. It is literally adapting to every circumstance that human life has. And to a point to where it can become, not really have a brain, but smart enough to do what it's doing now. But I will say this. There are vaccine efforts that couldn't have transpired early on in the earliest part of the pandemic because we needed something to curb what was transpiring, or we probably been 2 or 3 million deaths just in the US alone. But the military is working on something that will be variant, not really variant specific, but a pan corona vaccine, right? This is something UNC has been strong in trying to promote. and gain an understanding for like, man, they just need to really make one vaccine that can handle all these different variants. So even if there's a new variant, that vaccine will have the ability to be able to adjust itself and deal with that variant accordingly, right? No matter the variant. So we'll see how that goes. They're doing trials right now. I think the military doing trials right now. That's going to be a good thing. And then that's going to help us be able to progress forward as well. But using this whole new variant things, y'all the reasons. Us and really to be hard, not to be harsh, but to be truthful, y'all unvaccinated people are the reason things are happening the way it's happening now. But the problems are that, there's two different type of pandemics going on, or if we want to call it that. You have the pandemic of the unvaccinated people, and then you have the small or emerging breakthrough cases in the vaccinated people that is occurring, but not at no real super high level. And that's why we, Dr. Cole say go get boosted. I'm listening to Dr. Cole. Unc and I didn't argue with Unc about boosters. I was waiting on, some data specifically about them testing people who've been vaccinated after a year, and then they go back and check out their their T cell and B cell immunity to see how they're still holding up and if the vaccine is still infectious as it initially was. But some data came out recently that said that it's weakened but still strong. So if I can real quick, I want to show something.
Okay. And I told Dr. Cole that you might want to fight with her about the boosters.
No, I ain't fighting with the doctor about the booster shot. I fight with Unc, but I ain't fighting with the doctor about the booster. All right, so here we go. Omicron cannot escape the T cell booster protect household from Omicron. So this is from Reuters. It's a 3-minute read, right? And in this 3-minute read is basically telling us about, our second line of defense. It can't escape our second line of defense. This is good. This is a positive for us. But you don't know about that second line of defense if you don't understand your immune system. You see what I'm saying? So basically, and I'll read this just briefly. It says the following is a summary of some recent studies on COVID-19. They include research that warrants further study to corroborate the findings and that has yet to be certified by peer review. So we're waiting on those findings. It says a key part of the immune system second line defense is T cells are highly effective at recognizing and attacking Omicron variant, thereby preventing most infections from progressing to critical illness. A new study shows Omicron's mutations help it escape from antibodies, the body's first line of defense against infection. Researchers have speculated that other components of the immune response would still target Omicron, but there has been no proof until now. All right. So in the test tube experiment, and researchers in South Africa exposed copies of the virus to T cells from volunteers who have received vaccines, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, those two vaccines. Now, remember, Moderna is not here. So there's still more information. However, or had not been vaccinated, but had developed their own T cells after infection with an early version of the coronavirus. Despite Omicron's extensive mutations and reduced susceptibility to neutralizing antibodies, the majority of the T cell response induced by vaccinations or natural infections cross-recognizes the variant. So the researchers reported it in this peer-reviewed article here. So if you click, this is what I was saying, how to read these particular articles. Because if you click on right here, it's going to take us, and I'm going to show you live as a demonstration. It takes us directly. Yeah, it takes us directly to the source right now. This is this has not been peer reviewed, so you need to make sure you highlight this portion. Once it's peer reviewed, it will end up in a journal and you'll have more specific information. These are the authors that have contributed to the research that went into this publication. Okay, the full text is always right here, and you can download the PDF. So if you want to download the PDF and highlight some stuff like that, you can do it. I'm telling y'all.
Teach them, Shawn. Teach them, Shawn.
I'm telling y'all what the researchers do. So we would download this, And then we would find the key points or the key elements that we need to discuss or what we need to know in order to communicate this effort to our people in layman's terms. All right. So those are some key components right there. As you can see, I have some other stuff here on the screen, and I'm not really going to get into much of that right at this juncture. But also, you know, we're talking about the emergence in this new variant that has, you know, they're linking to Cameroon possibility. This is a preprint as well, as you can see. And you do the same thing with that, and you see the contributing authors here. And this is basically telling us that 13 individuals that was in Africa near Cameroon area make it back to the UK, all tested for this weird or new potential variant. And they swab the people. They think the origins is in Cameroon. You have to remember, these people leaving Africa, going back to these other places. Africa's behind in testing and vaccinating. And there needs to be a continuous effort, especially in some of these rural areas in Africa, to get these people tested and vaccinated, because again, it is a public health crisis. But, you know, I kind of keep my head in these particular studies, and then you'll see me turn around and go into a journal of nature. You might see me go into JAMA, you know, those high-end publications that actually talk about those things. But I wanted to show, Lancet. I wanted to show y'all those two things real quick, because those were, you know, a part of what we were just discussing.
Okay, we're just gonna go to one more chapter, because you know what, looking at what you have left, myth and pseudoisms, we're gonna have to do a different show on that. And origins of the origins. To me right now, because you know, I've been in discussions and arguments and debates, and they say, well, where did it start at, Chill? How did it really start? I'm like, man, I don't care if a doctor made it in a laboratory in Wuhan, or I don't care if Dr. Dre made it in his recording studio. That's not the issue that we having right now. But I do want to we're gonna have to deal with, because that's gonna take care of some other things. But I do want to wrap this up on the evolution of vaccine science, because that's another thing that's at the cornerstone of misinformation. But I want to remind you of something. Remember you, I, and Unc were talking to Dr. Cole. This was I believe at the very beginning of the pandemic. And I believe Unc asked, we started talking about, of course, you know, Unc is going to tell you there is no such thing as race, that race is a social construct. And so people were saying, if there's no such thing as race, why was Dr. Cole asking Black people to be part of the trials, to be included in the trials, if there's no difference genetically between Black people and white people and Asian people and whatever. And Dr. Cole said, because we need the contribution of your genetic makeup. We're not talking about race, but we're talking about your genetic makeup. But flash forward, when Black people refuse to, now obviously if they refuse to take the vaccine, they really are refusing to be part of a vaccine trial. And here now we're dealing with some things that may be specific to our genetic makeup, which Dr. Cole was trying to tell us. And now we're feeling left out. Like, oh, they're gonna make a vaccine without us that has nothing to do with us. But at the very beginning, when we were even in the trial process, Dr. Cole, why were you asking us? Because let me tell you, to tell Black people to participate in a vaccine trial, woo, that's a tough one. But you were talking about that back then. Refresh us. And how does that reference where we're at right now?
So the whole thing of trying to get Black people into clinical trials, whether it's for a vaccine or new medicines, I mean, that's been a long struggle. And in one of my slide presentations, which I didn't show today, I have a slide about being in clinical trials and being part of scientific study, because yes, the science is going to move on without us. And it's not about race. Yes, race is a social construct. It's not about how you look on the outside, but what genetically you are on the inside. And yes, there are genetic differences between people. And ideally, when you're doing any kind of research study with human beings, whether it's a vaccine or a medicine, it is ideal to get all kind of genetic backgrounds into your study so you can more widely make recommendations about a medication, knowing that you have a large contribution of your overall population in the study to use these medicines for. And the thing is, with respect to medications and clinical trials, you know, a lot of illnesses that we do a lot of clinical trials on, these are diseases that Black people, just like anybody else, has. So why not help with the clinical trials for a medicine you might need in 5 or 10 years?
I hear you on that. No, facts, as they would say in the chat right now, facts. Shawn, and we're gonna finish on this chapter and to talk about the evolution of vaccine science and the creation of mRNA vaccines. Mm-hmm. What people say, what detractors are saying was rushed, erroneously saying that we skipped steps.
But that's what my slide was for.
You're right. Okay, but
that's why I keep that slide in my presentation.
Keep that slide in your pocket. Don't go anywhere without that slide, Dr. Cole, because that's always gonna come up. And she said it at the beginning that they have been working on this science for a long time. Shawn, talk to me about one. Why do we think that steps were skipped? Why do we think that things that we should have done that were done, for some reason we think they were not done? And finally, how amazing is this new science? You know, I'm confused as why we are not recognizing our advances in science and scientific methods for the brilliance that it is. It seems that we're going in the opposite direction with our understanding of these advances that we as so-called Black people have been participants in, leaders of, and we still don't understand the brilliance of where this science has taken us. But why do we think that the steps were skipped? Why do we think we didn't do the trials properly, that we were insufficient, and that's why a lot of people were hesitant?
And before you answer, I must interject that people don't know it, but a lot of the scientists around the world look like you and me on this subject. They really do. A lot of us are involved.
You know why? Because they think that science is white people science.
Yeah, pilgrims.
That it's not that the science that's ours is a leaf or herb.
Yeah. Well, Sister Val says ignorance. Okay. I agree with Sister Val, but it also goes back to people's understanding on how long vaccines take. See, they're still under the impression that we need to extract the live virus, weaken it, and then make copies of it, and then test it and go through a phase that could take 5 years, 10 years. And they don't understand that this technology, and because the way science has advanced, science and technology has advanced us up until today, that research for this particular feat to transpire happened 30 years ago. So you have, in the book, in the chapter, we're talking about the evolution of vaccines. We begin at inoculations, right? You had people all over the world trying to resolve something that they didn't understand naturally. They had no comprehension or understanding of the immune system, but they knew something was plaguing people. And so they began to experiment or to test things that would ultimately lead to the process of inoculations. You take, for instance, I did a presentation on the Nupe and the Yoruba and how they share a deity, Sapana, this deity called the Sapana, which is the smallpox deity. And in that presentation, I talked about how not only did they share this particular deity, but they were plagued by the smallpox. And the quote unquote witch doctors, right, when people would die or whatever, witch doctors would cut an incision in their arms and squeeze little pusses of whatever happened to them into their skins. And they would walk around like it wasn't nothing in the community that people ran away from and stayed in their houses. And everybody thought those people were crazy and they would never contract it. And they wouldn't go back, and other people wouldn't go back to the spots where those people died, but the witch doctors would. Now, they began to inform people that they actually can have that same type of protection too. But at that time, it would be seen as something like magic to people, like they're working with some miracle thing. They didn't know that they had this understanding, but they realized by trying this, it led to something. That was a dangerous method, but it occurred for another possibly 50, 75, 100 years, pretty much. So now you're enslaving Africans, you're bringing them to a new world. You got this smallpox breakout that's transpired, and you have people that's telling you, hey, look, we are already familiar with this method. These enslaved Africans aren't getting infected by that. So now they're telling people how they resolved it back on the continent. And they take that and they introduce it to other people and they see some resolve out of that. So now you see that. And from that, you get an Edward Jenner who, creates and elevates that game, going from inoculations to vaccinations. But that vaccination process would take a very long time because they didn't know how to weaken that virus. It was still deadly, or a live virus to wipe you on up out of here. So now you go from inoculations to the first vaccine. So you would call that the first generation or stage one, whatever you want to say. The first generation is what I say, vaccines, right? And then you get to science and technology involving and cutting the time span down from the first vaccines, which took 50, to a process to where it was 20, and then getting it down to 10 because they began to understand, like, not only do we need to make copies of this and do all these testings and things of that nature, but we can use an adenovirus, or we could use a common cold virus, and we can manipulate that virus, and then we can use it as a way so that they can use stage 2, the second generation vaccines. And then while second generation vaccines are going on, scientists have already been studying RNA. The breakthroughs in RNA were lagged. When they get to mRNA, which we get to Dr. Cole's slide, researchers have brought it so far. Lipid nanoparticles was in use 26 years ago, right? So they knew that they can use it as a measurement to help get whatever they needed to the cell, right? So when they have a breakthrough, they get the breakthrough for mRNA from Australia somewhere, scientists in Australia, that merged with the current information that they already had. So you're putting all this information together, and now it was the perfect, they call it the perfect storm or whatever, however they want to word it, but this was the right time for all that science to come into play in the middle of a pandemic. So when the ancestral strand D614G was mapped, that information was sent around the world, mRNA had the opportunity, scientists had the opportunity to take that ancestral strand, that knowledge on how this virus, and remember, Dr. Cole said this is one of the, what did you use this? Well, when you said this, I forget, it was like, this is one of the laziest or fattiest looking viruses.
Yeah, so I can't remember where I was reading this, or maybe I was on a webinar sometime last year, but apparently, in the family of virus world, coronavirus isn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, meaning it's not as smart as HIV. So basically, trying to find a vaccine for coronavirus was much easier than other viruses, basically. And I'm going to interject. I had written down 3 things, and I've been carrying around these 3 things that I jotted down. I think I've been carrying this around for like a year, and this is the perfect time for me to say this. I've been waiting to.
She been waiting to break this one out, Shawn.
I've been waiting for the time where I could use this information. Now, I think I read this somewhere, or I must have read it. I don't think I came up with this myself. But as far as how fast they made these vaccines, in addition, and I'm going to read how I wrote it. People were getting infected so fast at the beginning of this pandemic that clinical trials were able to proceed even more quickly because they had more cases and more people and more pools of volunteers to do research for these trials. And so that goes all into what Shawn was talking about, the perfect storm. This particular endemic, which turned into a pandemic, people were getting infected so fast, they were able to do the trials even faster because they had so many people to use. And believe it or not, a lot of people volunteered for these clinical trials. And with respect to getting vaccinated, and I need to make a slide for this. I said, and I think I did come up with this. I said, why not getting vaccinated to avoid interfacing with the medical system that you don't trust? How about that?
Say if you get vaccinated, then you ain't got to go see those doctors that you think are.
Then you ain't got to deal with me.
Yeah. I like that. That's a fact. Yeah. There you have
And then
it.
the last thing I jotted down, Shawn may be able to give some more detail. And I think I wrote this down about a year ago. There were like 100, I think this is maybe worldwide, 150 vaccine candidates. And we got down to 3 in this country. So that means there's so many vaccines that people have been trying all over the world, and we got down to 3. So, I mean, it's a very tedious process. I mean, as the general public, we only see the tip of the iceberg about how much work goes behind to trying to find suitable vaccines that are going to work.
And that's 3 in this country.
3 in our country, absolutely.
In our country, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
still, if you go look at in the UK, or we could take Israel, since a lot of studies that are coming out of Israel, right? And there was a question in the chat that I want to probably get to at some point if we could. I think I got to scroll back up, but Infinity asked about something about the 4th shot that they're doing over there in Israel and the CDC booster stuff, but all those vaccines And she's right, only 3. Like there were, the government invested in like 8 to 10 different companies to create vaccines. And a lot of them didn't even make it out of the phase 1. They just faulted, or their phase 2 data faulted. And that was ultimate. And you only have 3 to progress. And then you have 1 come behind those a little bit slower, which is still not up for EUA, but they're still trying to do trials on other vaccines to show it up. They made 2 mRNA vaccines. They brought them forward. They made a second generation vaccine. They brought it forward. They were working on protein-based vaccines that hadn't transpired into anything yet. So there was different type of vaccines or vaccine technology that they were using to bring things forward. And here we are. We just have 3, and rightfully so, because those 3 are very, very, very important. And, but the 2, the data that we got from the 2 was so astounding that you don't want to deal with nothing else. Like, come on, man. Like, we haven't seen vaccines this infectious ever. You have to think about that. So we were just waiting on a vaccine to be 50% infectious, ladies and gentlemen. We got 94 and 95% against the ancestral variant. And then even against Alpha, it was still 94 and 95% infectious. Even against Delta, when it took its blows, we saw Moderna drop the least. It was 88%. And then we saw Pfizer still in the 64%. That's still better than 50% what they initially wanted. And we got spoiled. Then we got the uppity people who was on the fence that I don't know about this vaccine, but I'm gonna get the vaccine. The next thing they like, well, I don't want no Johnson & Johnson. They just totally dismissed Johnson & Johnson and said, if I'm gonna get something, I'm gonna get the Moderna. You know what I'm saying? Like, hold on. Last week you was just talking about. Oh, I'm confused, but yeah. But I want to answer this. Infinity says, is CDC pushing the booster shot as a simple add-on, or are they making the booster part of COVID-19 vaccine regimen? And while Israel has recently introduced the 4th COVID-19 vaccine for people over 60, no cure. So to deal with the first part of that, is the CDC pushing the booster shot as a simple add-on? No, we haven't determined a vaccine schedule yet, right? That we know of. We haven't determined an actual vaccine schedule. We're working off of previous history with viruses, the knowledge of previous history with viruses, and therefore we're in that mode of trying to really hash those things out, and you're seeing it transpire in the middle of a pandemic, unfortunately. And then she says, or are they making the booster part of the COVID-19 vaccine regime? Now, I think this is me, Dr. Cole gonna give you something different. For me, for that part, they're making the boosters a part of it because the data says the waning protection occurs after a certain period, right? Look at chill. Now, the waning protection, let me be a little bit more clear. They're saying, okay, so your initial onset of vaccines after a certain period of weeks lasts a certain has a certain infectious rate. But really, I think they're measuring infection, right? Because they're trying to protect against infection. So my initial argument against the boosters was, okay, we're trying to boost ourselves out of a pandemic into an endemic pretty much because we're trying to stop infection. Now, I think my position on that was based on how the media was steering the conversation and how our president Biden and the influence from outsiders on the CDC was to stop this breakthrough in the Israel studies. Another country was posing it as a problem. We have to remember Israel is a country, they have a older age population, and they are trying to protect those older people in that population over there in Israel. But at the same time, there's no Moderna there. So we really don't have a true measurement of how the vaccines could work if they did have Moderna. They're over there with Johnson and AstraZeneca, which I think is one of the weakest vaccines out. And it's not as weak as the Chinese vaccine. That was horrible. They have subsided. They have decided to go with something different over there in China. But whatever.
What about the one in Russia?
Right, they made their own.
That one wasn't good either.
They called it effectious as it can compete with Moderna and Pfizer, but only Russia got data.
Yeah, they weren't sharing their data so people can vet what they were doing.
Exactly.
And what about the what is it, the Novavax?
You hear good things about that data, but like I said, we're still handicapped on that because we haven't seen much of that. It's kind of been quiet under the radar, and then we'll hear something positive about it, and then we don't hear about it again. That's what's going on with Novavax, because I'm looking for these studies. Like when we were when I was waiting on the phase 3 data, the data from Moderna and Pfizer, and then Johnson and Johnson, man, that was spitting out. That was coming. Like we knew. And as soon as it would come up and I could find it and download it, it would be 4 days before it would be released to the public. I was getting that stuff. So you can't find that like that.
But that's another thing. And before we conclude, that's another thing, Shawn. When people, and Dr. Cole, when people say we don't know about this vaccine, we don't know what's in it, man, we know more about this vaccine than we have ever known about any vaccine in the history of mankind. Like, so if that's your story, you got to come up with a different one. This information is proliferated. If you want to, I don't even Shawn.
We knew the ingredients before the ingredients was printed and published.
And and even like Dr. Cole, another show, broke down in simplest terms, like it's not that serious. When you want to know the ingredients of it, it is not that.
It's three things in the mRNA vaccines. It's three things.
Do it. Let's do this again.
mRNA, fat,
and sugar.
And sugar. That's what it is.
Broken down for the layman. And then they use the lipid nanoparticle to hold all of that together to get it to the cell. And it has to be at a certain temperature, because if you knew the temperature inside of your body, upon entry, it would dissolve. That was the problem that they had earlier in trying to bring forth mRNA technology years ago, is that they didn't have the mechanism to get it to the cell without it dissolving. They kept failing at that entry point. So it wasn't working, and then we get better science, we get a better mechanism, and that brings it forward.
And there we have it. But we can finish on Dr. Cole just breaking it down, the code, sugar, and some damn salt.
I said mRNA, fat,
the code, mRNA, the code.
And the other thing that Lynn said, Dr. Milliner, she said,
that's our girl. That's your girl.
She said, it's easier to understand what's in mRNA vaccines than in a hot dog. That's what she said.
Facts. Or a box of cereal.
You got that yellow number 3. We don't know what the hell that is. But we're going to wrap this one up. Shawn, you have to promise because we have to, the myths and the pseudoisms, that's my favorite part. So
oh my gosh,
that's a different show. So you got to promise.
But before we wrap up, I want to just I want to share my screen real quick. I want to let people know something real quick. All right.
And we need to let the people know we've neglected to tell people where to get the book. We've been going so hard to the paint.
Right. So I know y'all probably can see my screen a little bit. I'm gonna wait and see if they can see it on the YouTube side. But on the 22nd, we're going to be at the Black Dot Cultural Center, which is, you know, he's affiliated with the bookstore, right? This is the bookstore where Unc is at. And we're going to be talking about, should the community trust vaccine science and are they good for Black people? So we're going to get into 8 particular questions. Should African Americans trust vaccines? What is it? Immunology, virology, and epidemiology? How has the pandemic affected the Black community? Should the Black community allow past events to affect their decisions to get vaccinated? Should the Black community trust herbs and food as our only defense against COVID-19? Should the Black community trust Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and the overall health of our community? Is there a way to tell who is telling the truth about the pandemic? And then what's the best way to protect ourselves during the pandemic? And it'll also be a book signing on site. You can best believe that everybody that'll be there vaccinated. I'm talking with mask on. I don't trust none of y'all. Don't come up in my face. I'm gonna feel disrespected. Nah, but in reality, this event is going to be an impactful event. There ain't gonna be no shoulder to shoulder. You know what I mean? And we're going to be there for a little while and we're going to present and do our thing, but we're really there to inform people. And ultimately, that's the next venture of what we got going on. But you can get the book. Let me share again. You can order your copy of the book. As you see, I got a whole bunch of stuff up here. Where's my Chrome?
You know you need to get the book. Dr. Cole has the book. She had to send the butler to walk a mile to where her post office box, you know, she got one of them driveways that's a mile away from where the mailman put it.
Yeah, right. He had to drive a cart down there.
Had to drive a car to where the mailbox was at.
Okay.
Crossed out
so
at 8.
You can get the book at sametreepublishing.com. It'll take you here to the home screen. You can go to our bookstore. You click on the bookstore. And I'm gonna give Chill the link and he can drop it in the chat. You can go to our bookstore and you'll see Kofi and Beautiful Lessons of Kimoyo. You know, you gotta highlight Kofi in that book, right? And then you'll see all our published works here. This is a simple introduction video that it's pretty much like a donation, but you'll get it, you can download it and watch it. And then all of our other books, and then you'll come down to my book here. You can get it here. You can get all these other books that we have here. You can pre-order this book.
I don't pre-order Chavez's book. I
know you have. Me too.
I pre-ordered that book.
Me too.
Okay.
And I don't know why this book is down here at the bottom, but you know, that's available as well. Children's book. And then you'll probably see this in 2022. And if you have you want to chat with us, you can put some information in. And Kofi or myself will chat you. Also, we have some contact information over there on the left-hand side. And that's where you actually can get the book.
All right. Bonita, they didn't use the pandemic. They done wrote like 27 books in 9 months.
I put it in the chat for you, Chill. Yeah, we actually did. We spent a lot since we was in the house. I mean, we spent a lot of our time just acquiring knowledge and applying that knowledge.
Okay, Shawn, Linda's in the A, but she wants to know: are you going to be showing that event? Is it going to be streamed somewhere?
With me being
But
around,
she said she don't know y'all that good.
right. With me being around, there's a possibility that I would be able to set up the stream to be viewed. I don't know which channel that it would be viewed on, but I have the complexity to be able to stream it on multiple YouTube channels. If anything, it would be on Science with Shawn. Y'all got to get Chill to put these links in the chat, because he ain't got no moderators over here, and that's why all these bots keep coming up.
I know, man. I'm not, hey man, I'm not big time like y'all. Y'all got like dedicated staff. Y'all got like, y'all be having like No and Jojo and
even moderators. So
people with
they go to
wrenches.
links right there. He could drop them links in the chat, and that'll be where you can actually see it, Miss Thomas.
I'll put all of those links on all the Chill platforms. I'll put it on the.
She said she want the ordering information, so put it in the chat for her.
Okay, she can get. We'll make sure that she gets that information. She'll out. All right, Dr. Cole. I know you're gonna be already. I know you like Chill. I can't believe you had me on this thing this daggone long. I know.
You know how I'm tired on Friday.
I know. Okay, but we do appreciate you being on here, and I know the people in the chat appreciate you being on here, and I know Shawn appreciates you being on here. You always add a lot.
Absolutely.
Not only do you provide expertise, but you provide candor. As one of my people used to say, you cutthroat clear. What you're talking about. You're not playing around with it. So, hey, everybody that's watching, support all of Shawn's platforms. We'll get all the information out for where you can get this specific book. I got mine, and all the rest of those books within the research team and the publishing company and all of that. So hold on.
Oh, and I forgot.
Yes.
Shawn, he put me in the forward. I was shocked.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I couldn't write no book about this, and then I'd involve you and Dr. Lynn. I couldn't do nothing. I couldn't leave y'all out of it. Y'all was part of the discussion.
So yeah, that's slick. So yeah, but for all the people that's watching, we got two of my favorite chapters that we haven't even gotten into yet. So we'll arrange that, and I don't know, we can drag Dr. Cole back out.
Listen. I don't want to waste her time with them crazy folks.
Yes, we might not need her.
I don't need to be on the what chapter is it? The
myths and pseudoisms.
Yeah,
it's
you can leave me out of that one.
Hey man, that's the second part right there. Yeah, we gonna talk about RZA. We not from the woo.
Right.
Yeah, well,
I know what you want to know what that is. Oh no!
If you read that, well, it's the origins of where a lot of the misinformation comes from. So,
okay,
in that chapter, like the 5G, I got the lady who started it.
Most people I'll read it in the book, but I don't want to be. I don't want to talk about it.
She'll read the book. She ain't want to be a part of that. We don't need you for that, Dr. Cole. We gonna call you for something else. But we go get that other part handled though. But yeah, we don't need you for that one. But
that's the stereo show. That's the stereo.
Hey, Shawn, stereo waiting to get back in the game. He looking for you, Shawn.
Mm-hmm.
You see,
it's okay. Not with Dr. Cole. I ain't let him nowhere near Dr. Cole messing up her brain cells.
All right, guys, but we're gonna wrap this one up. Look for more things. We're doing more things with My Cool Solutions, and I promise you, Shawn, when we get this grant coming up, not only are we gonna do bigger and better things, you know, and I'm gonna be able to be like you and have it showing on 20 different platforms at the same time in fancy looking boxes with man, I'm still waiting on y'all to make my doggone logo. But anyhow, all of that. Hey, he said he got me. We go, but okay. But anyway, that's another conversation. And Ankh, I got you lined up too. Ankh, you on deck. I don't know how they trying to do you, King, but I got you. But no, again,
don't be helping up.
Hey man, come on, I can't let y'all do how y'all trying to do, Ankh, man. That's just disrespectful.
You're looking for allies.
Doing that, man, doing that. You ain't, man, come on, y'all don't see the X-Men jumping on Professor X like that. But anyhow, and he in a wheelchair, not on Professor X. But anyway, we up out of here, y'all. I appreciate everybody that was hanging out with us right now. Please share it on YouTube. We, you know, when I get sophisticated like Shawn, we may break this up into different categories and platforms and sections and for people who want to watch a 3-hour show. But for the people that hung out here on the live, we appreciate it. And anytime you see me up doing something, if support, and I appreciate it. We can keep bringing you this information because I got some other people, and I'm gonna make sure I got Shawn there, and if I can get Dr. Cole to show up, and we go get Ankh in there because I know he want to get some of this as well. And I have some big things planned that you want to know about and be a part of. So Shawn, thank you. Dr. Cole, thank you. And I don't know if somebody want to give some shout outs on I know Dr. Cole ain't trying to shout nobody, she's just trying to leave. But anything in closing, Shawn?
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate Dr. Cole being present as always. I appreciate it when I have an opportunity to be on the panel with you. And we get to talk about things that are serious and impacting our community. And you pretty much validate a lot of the arguments that we've been having on social media, because not only are you dealing with it, but you're and you have the credentials, but you actually can talk some sense into the nonsense at times. So I appreciate you. That's one of the reasons I put you in the book. And Chill, thanks for having me as always, bro. Appreciate the support. Don't forget to give the link to Linda because she wants to.
We go get that to her. I'm guaranteeing you. All right, we up out of here, y'all. Appreciate it. Stay safe. Follow the science. We out.